Chapter 615. In the latest issue of the Gathering of Heroes ranking, the 100th ranked genius was called Qin Huayu, and he lived in the thundercloud city of Hezhou. Yi Xingqian and Xiao Ziji rode on hurricane wolves and rushed over at their fastest speed. Qin family. The head of the thundercloud city's four great families, and its strength was comparable to a sixth-rate sect. Qin Huayu was a direct descendant of the Qin family, and after gathering all the resources, he was able to reach the 100th rank. Therefore, it was almost impossible for outsiders to seek an audience with them. When Yi Xingqian arrived at the Qin family, his first sentence was, "I want to challenge Qin Huayu, ask him to come out and fight." "You think you're qualified to challenge my young master?" Some youngsters nowadays really have guts. They don't even take a look at themselves, and they dare to challenge the mere-ranked genius. Those who challenge my young master every day can line up to the city gate. Who do you think you are? Get lost. The guards of the Qin family were extremely arrogant, so they angered Knight Emperor. He directly used violent means to send them flying and smashed the Qin family's gate. Although the means were extreme, the effect was extremely good. Shwa! Shwa! In an instant, more than 10 martial cultivators rushed out of the Qin family's inner court, and their strength was at the Wuzong level. They glared at the two youngsters who were walking over. Yi Xingqian said indifferently, "Ask Qin Huayu to come out and fight." Impudent. The Qin family's patriarch walked out of the hall, and his peak Wuzong cultivation erupted. He instantly used a spiritual martial technique, and a ray of light shot over. Boom! Yi Xingqian raised his fist and broke the ray of light. Thump! Thump! The Qin family's patriarch took a few steps back, and his eyes were filled with shock. "You're a martial king." Martial king. The surrounding martial cultivators of the Qin family had a huge change in expression. Yi Xingqian said coldly, "Ask Qin Huayu to come out, or else I'll smash your Qin family." Arrogant, domineering. Xiao Ziji, who was standing at the side, twitched his mouth. Junior brother Yi indeed had the demeanor of a patriarch, and his temper was also that of a madman. Jun Changshao was arrogant because he had to establish his prestige, and let others understand that they couldn't afford to offend the sect of all times. This was considered passive. Our Knight Emperor is different. He is truly arrogant. As long as the conversation did not go well, he would immediately flip the table. The patriarch of the Qin clan had an ugly expression on his face. The Qin clan could not afford to offend a martial king. "Young friend." An elder cupped his hands and asked, "Did my family's direct descendant offend you?" "No." Yi Xingqian flashed the waste token he had obtained from the qualification battle not long ago and said indifferently, "I'm here to rank." The corners of the Qin family's mouths twitched violently. This guy is a martial king, yet he's not ranked. This is unbelievable. Yi Xingqian fully unleashed his martial king cultivation and filled the sky above the Qin clan. His gaze was cold as he said, "I'm in a hurry. Quickly get that brat to come out and fight." A threat. It was a blatant threat. Originally, the Qin clan wanted to lie and say that Qin Huayu wasn't around. In the end, they were frightened by his aura and hurriedly called out Qin Huayu, who was in seclusion. Boom! Boom! On the training field, spiritual energy spread out crazily. After being beaten up by Yi Xingqian, Qin Huayu, who had just appeared, was beaten until he completely fainted. Trash! Knight Emperor turned and left the Qin clan. Everyone in the Qin clan heaved a long sigh of relief. Qin Huayu would be kicked out of the human list if he lost to a challenger. They were not depressed at all, because that fierce guy's departure was truly a blessing in disguise. Boom! In a certain city, on the training field of a certain clan, Yi Xingqian sent his opponent flying with a punch. He shook his head and said, "What a trash." After saying that, he left. Xiao Ziji followed behind and shook his head helplessly. Yi Xingqian defeated 2 people in succession and was ranked 99th on the human list. What he meant was to give the genius who had fallen to the 100th place some time. He would continue to challenge and replace him. In the end, junior brother Yi beat him half to death. Just recuperating from his injuries would take several months. Forget it, forget it. I'll have plenty of time in the future. I'll let that poor guy recuperate first. Just like that, Xiao Ziji, who had planned to raise his ranking together with Yi Xingqian, watched the whole process. A few days later, the two of them shuttled through various provinces and challenged more than 20 geniuses one after another. Needless to say, Yi Xingqian, who had the cultivation of a martial king, was a bug. As long as he challenged the human list geniuses, they would definitely lose miserably. Have you heard? Recently, an extremely arrogant guy has been challenging the human list geniuses one after another. At least 20 people have been defeated by him. Of course I've heard. I also know that guy is a disciple of the sect of all times. His name is Yi Xingqian. Not only is the patriarch of this newly risen sect powerful, but the disciples are also powerful. While many cultivators were discussing, they were also looking forward to the list of heroes that was refreshed every half a month. They wanted to see what ranking Yi Xingqian could climb to. In the sect of all times, Li Luoqiu walked into the main hall and said, "Patriarch, the latest list of heroes has been released. Yi Xingqian has risen from his previous ranking to 45th in the human list." Ha! Jun Changshao said, "In just half a month, he has challenged 55 geniuses. This guy is quite fast." If the Black Eagle of the Demon Ridge or the Hurricane Wolf King were given to Yi Xingqian, he would be able to travel between provinces and counties faster and defeat more geniuses on the list of heroes. Patriarch Li Luoqiu said, "Every time this guy challenges someone, he beats his opponent half to death. If this continues, I'm afraid he will anger everyone." Jun Changshao said disapprovingly, "If he's not as skilled as others, he should be willing to accept defeat. Like disciple, like patriarch. Oh my god, that guy has never been on the list of heroes, but he has directly charged into the top 50. This speed is definitely the fastest in history, right?" When the latest list of heroes was released, many cultivators widened their eyes when they saw Yi Xingqian's ranking. The challenges were still ongoing. Half a month later, the latest list of heroes was released. Yi Xingqian had directly charged from 45th to 2nd place, which immediately caused a huge sensation in various provinces and counties. In just 30 days. From being unknown to 2nd place in the human list, this speed was simply unprecedented. Northwest He State, Monarch City. At this moment, hundreds of thousands of martial cultivators had gathered outside the arena. He's Yi Xingqian. In just a month, he charged from the bottom to 2nd place. His speed of improvement is really terrifying. If he wins this challenge to the 1st place in the human list, won't he be invincible? In the arena, Yi Xingqian stood proudly with his hands behind his back. After defeating the 2nd place in the human list, he came to Monarch City and issued a challenge to the 1st place genius. He could be said to be swift and decisive. Young Master's son is here. At this moment, someone shouted at the top of his lungs. On the empty road, a handsome young man was walking over, surrounded by servants. Sun Heyu. A direct descendant of Monarch City's Sun family. The 1st place in the human list of heroes. There were not many geniuses in Northwest He State who were on the list of heroes. Sun Heyu was definitely an outstanding talent of the younger generation to be able to charge into the 1st place. He was also an existence that everyone admired and looked up to. Young Master's son is so handsome. He will definitely defeat that Yi Xingqian. There's a banker. I've bet all my assets on young Master's son. Sun Heyu's arrival immediately caused a commotion. It was enough to show that this genius who was ranked 1st in the human list was extremely popular in Monarch City. Ta! After landing on the arena, Sun Heyu said proudly, "You're quite capable to be able to rise to 2nd place in the human list in such a short time. However, if you challenge me, your winning streak will also end. Even his side profile is so handsome. I can't take it anymore." Some of the young ladies were so mesmerized by Sun Heyu's side profile that they couldn't differentiate north from south. At the same time, they didn't forget to look at Yi Xingchen with a terrifying gaze. "How dare you challenge my idol? Just wait to be tortured." Xiao Ziji, who was in the crowd, shook his head and said, "This person's strength is average. He won't be able to escape being tortured by junior brother Yi." Chapter 6:16. Just as Yi Xingchen was challenging the human class geniuses, the Sect of All Times was holding the second Sect competition. According to last year's rules, this year's competition was split into 4 groups, B, C, and D. Group D was undoubtedly the weakest. But this year's disciples were all from Wuzong and the battles were intense. Without exaggerating, with the current strength of the Sect of All Times disciples, if they were to participate in the Sect competition, they would definitely be the champion, leaving no way out for the other participants. Yi Xingchen challenged the human class geniuses for 99 battles, but none of them were comparable to the battles in Group D. Why? Because they were all instant kills, not exciting at all. On the other hand, the disciples in Group D were on par with each other and were familiar with the Sect's martial techniques. When they fought, sparks flew everywhere. A pity. As it was an internal Sect competition, there were no outsiders watching, or else they would be shocked beyond words. The highest level was still Group A. Because those who dared to sign up were all martial kings who relied on martial king pills. Martial kings in the Sect competition. If this were to spread out, it would definitely shock everyone. Li Tiantian, Lin Jiangheng, Sima Zhongde and the other disciples signed up for Group A and also displayed their strength. However, the most valuable championship was won by He Wudi, who had entered the competition later. Too powerful. They are not even on the same level. Li Tiantian, Cui Bujian and the rest were defeated, all of them wanted to cry. In the previous Sect competition, they did not dare to participate in Group A because Long Xiang and the rest were too strong. That group of people were promoted to the inner Sect and finally felt like they had made a name for themselves. In the end, He Wudi appeared out of nowhere and directly took the second champion with his powerful cultivation. The champion had more rewards. Li Tiantian and the rest who performed well in Group A successfully became inner Sect disciples. At this point, the number of inner Sect disciples in the Sect of All Times increased from the initial 21 to 93. In other words, the outer Sect disciples who relied on martial king pills to break through to martial king were all accepted into the inner Sect. He Wudi did not become an inner Sect disciple because he was the last disciple. Although it was a joke at the start, as he displayed his monstrous talent, Jun Changshao gradually realized that he deserved to be the last disciple. Ding! Disciple Yi Xingchen has been promoted to the first rank of the Gathering of Heroes leaderboard. Host has received 5,000 contribution points. Ding! Sect contribution points, 8211200000. A few days after the Sect Grand Competition ended, a notification sounded in Jun Changxiao's ears. Damn! That brat got first place in the human branch and was rewarded with contribution points. The system said, Yi Xingchen was personally groomed by the host. Naturally, he will also benefit from participating in the high-level competitions and achieving good results. What it said was quite standard, and it was very standard. For example, the first place of the human group on the Gathering of Heroes leaderboard was very standard and had a lot of weight. Jun Patriarch wouldn't be able to gain any benefits even if his disciples won the championship if they didn't meet the standards. Awesome! Jun Changshao grinned. On the same day, Li Luoqiu walked into the main hall and said, I just received news that Yi Xingchen has issued a challenge to Sun Heyu, who is ranked first on the mortal list. What's the result? Jun Changshao said. From the rewards, he already knew that Yi Xingchen had won. What he wanted to know was how his opponent was doing. Li Luoqiu shook his head and said, that top genius was extremely arrogant after going on stage, and angered Yi Xingchen. Then, he was ruthlessly humiliated in front of everyone. This was what he knew from the intelligence. He didn't know anything more than that. In fact, when Yi Xingchen and Sun Heyu started, they only used one punch to knock each other to the ground. Then, they began to torture each other horribly. The entire process was witnessed by hundreds of thousands of martial artists in King's City, and they were so scared that their scalps were about to explode. Ruthless. Super ruthless. When Sun Huyu's fangirls saw their idol being tortured to the point that he was covered in wounds, they were all stunned on the spot and some even cried. The martial artists who had bet all their wealth on young Master Sun cried even more miserably. However, what they couldn't tolerate the most was. After the violence, Yi Xingqian kicked Sun Huyu off the stage and said indifferently, "This kind of trash deserves to be at the top of the mortal list. Damn it. This guy is too arrogant. Kid." A martial king expert hiding in the dark said in a deep voice, "Do you dare to fight with me?" This person didn't know Sun Huyu, and he stood out because he couldn't tolerate a disciple of the sect of all times being so arrogant and despotic in front of his own sect. "Kid, don't be a coward. If you have the guts, then hurry up and accept the challenge." The martial artists in King's City started to jeer, afraid that Yi Xingqian would choose to avoid the challenge. Sun Huyu was beaten so miserably, and he was slapping Northwest Hezhou's face, so it was normal for them to be hostile. "Come up," Yi Xingqian said indifferently. During this period of time, it was really boring to trample on Wuzong-level rookies. It was good to change to a high-level opponent. Swish! That martial king flew over and landed on the stage. Whoosh! Whoosh! Before he could stabilize himself, Yi Xingqian waved his hand, and a scorching flame whizzed out. It instantly condensed into a chop seal and blasted toward him. Oh no! That martial king was shocked. Rumble! In the next second, he was sent flying and fell to the ground in a sorry state. His chest was burned, and he passed out gloriously. He came quickly, but he also lost quickly. Those spectators who wanted to cheer for that martial king were all stunned on the spot with their mouths agape. Even a martial king was instantly killed by him. How terrifying was his strength! Yi Xingqian retracted his flames and looked at the martial artists present. He said arrogantly, "Who else is not convinced?" "I'm not convinced." "I'm not convinced either." A few martial kings in King's City were eager to fight. If they didn't defeat this arrogant guy today, they wouldn't be able to swallow their anger. Sect of all times. As usual, Jun Changshao supervised the disciples' cultivation. Occasionally, he would go to the herb garden to drink tea with Elder Wei. His life was very smooth. Patriarch. At this moment, Li Luoqiu hurried over and said, "Something happened." "What's wrong?" Jun Changshao asked. Li Luoqiu said solemnly, "Yi Xingqian has offended too many people in King's City." As soon as he and Xiao Ziji left King's City, they were targeted by a few Wu Huang. "Fuck." Jun Changshao said, "They can't beat my disciple, so they sent people to ambush him." Is Northwest Hezhou so shameless? He didn't know how arrogant Yi Xingqian was in King's City. Xiao Ziji sent a request for help. "The two of them are trapped in the Yin Mountain Ridge," Li Luoqiu said. Jun Changshao walked out of the hall and instantly gathered mechanical wings behind him. He said with a cold gaze, "I want to see who dares to bully my sect of all times." Whoosh! He turned into a stream of light and sped towards the northwest. Li Luoqiu shook her head and said, when he found out that Lu Qianqian was bullied in northeast Luzhou, he angrily gathered people to attack. Now that Yi Xingqian and Xiao Ziji are trapped, he doesn't panic. They're both disciples, but why is there such a big difference? She said that. It was as if Jun Patriarch was biased. Chapter 6:17. They were both disciples, and they were both in trouble. Why was Jun Changshao acting so differently? Bias? No way. Jun Patriarch had become more mature than before after reaching the peak of the Sword Warrior Double King, with the body of Holy Flame and the mechanical wings. It was unforgivable to offend his disciples. However, it would be irrational if he led his disciples to kill them like he did to save Lu Qianqian. Not to mention, Yi Xingqian and Xiao Ziji were already martial kings. Even if they could not defeat Wu Huang, they should be able to protect themselves. Both the palm and the back of the hand were flesh and blood. There was no difference between men and women. Jun Changshao was right. Although Yi Xingqian and Xiao Ziji were trapped in the Yin mountain ridge, Wu Huang would not be able to find them in a short time. Strange. A powerhouse in a black robe and a strange mask released his spiritual sense and covered the entire forest. He said in a cold voice, "I saw them come in. Why are they gone?" There were a total of 4 people chasing after Yi Xingqian and Xiao Ziji. They were all dressed in black robes and wore ferocious masks. They looked very mysterious. This time, the master gave a death order. "We have to capture a disciple of the sect of all times no matter what. If we can't do it, we will be punished when we return." Another Wu Huang said. "I thought it was a good job, but I didn't expect the 2 of them to be so smart. We couldn't find them when we didn't keep an eye on them. Don't be distracted." Wu Huang, who was walking at the front, said in a deep voice, "The 2 of them must still be in the Yin mountain ridge. They must have used some kind of treasure to hide their aura and avoid our spiritual sense detection." In the dark, Xiao Ziji gently parted the leaves, revealing a pair of dark eyes. He looked like a special forces soldier on a mission in the jungle. "Junior brother Yi, they really can't find us." Yi Xingqian, who was hiding next to him, smiled disdainfully. In terms of strength, he was temporarily no match for Wu Huang. However, under the operation of the Taishen Sutra, he could seal his and Xiao Ziji's aura. It was impossible for the other party to find them. He would never be found. However, they were in a valley surrounded by towering cliffs. The entrance to the outside world was blocked, so they could only hide in the dark and play hide-and-seek with a few Wu Huang men. "I've already notified the nearest Drizzle Hall member," Xiao Ziji said. "The Patriarch has received the news and should be coming to rescue us soon." Troublesome. Yi Xingqian got up and left the bushes. With his personality, he would never wait for the Patriarch to rescue him. Instead, he was thinking about how to break out of the encirclement of Wu Huang. "Junior brother Yi," Xiao Ziji said, "don't be rash." Yi Xingqian said indifferently, "If you want to survive in this cruel world, you can't rely on others. You have to rely on yourself." What he said made sense. Xiao Ziji did not say anything and hurriedly followed him. The 2 of them did not dare to release their spiritual senses recklessly to avoid being captured. They could only move stealthily in the forest. Over there. They were still discovered. Whoosh whoosh, violent spiritual energy surged forth, instantly shattering the surrounding trees into pieces. Yi Xingqian and Xiao Ziji immediately used cloud-treading steps to dash into the nearby bushes and disappeared without a trace. Buzz! In an instant, their chi domain opened. Wu Huang, who had chased after them, sealed off the area and then searched carefully, but he still could not find them. Chi domains could be used against other martial kings, but they were useless against Xiao Ziji and Yi Xingqian. Because the 2 of them had been cultivating in the Tower of Trials all year round, as long as it was not the kind of pressure that suppressed their level, they would not be affected for a short period of time. "Damn it!" Wu Huang said angrily, "Do they have a treasure that can resist chi domains?" Another person who had rushed over said, "If the Sect of all times didn't have this ability, it would be impossible for them to rise in such a short time. It's better to go to Azure Sun County and hide in the dark while waiting for the Sect of all times disciples to come out. Then, we can kidnap any one of them and report back to the master. Mu Changhong has already broken through to half-step Wusheng, and Jun Changshao has already beaten up the Grand Elder of the Extreme Coldness Palace. We will definitely be discovered if we go over." Wu Huang fell silent. The Patriarch of the Sect of all times could beat up a half-step sage, so he naturally did not have the courage to go to their territory. "Junior brother Yi." Xiao Ziji, who was hiding, transmitted his voice, "These people are wearing masks and look very mysterious. They might not be experts from the royal city." Yi Xingqian did not say anything. Actually, he had already realized it. These people are dressed strangely. They must be from a shady faction, Yi Xingqian thought to himself. Let's go. After observing for a while, he set off again. Xiao Zuiji followed closely behind. Just like that, the two of them sneaked through the forest and soon arrived at the entrance. Junior brother, they seem to have left. It's not that simple. Yi Xingqian did not think that the four Wu Huang had left. They might have deliberately left a flaw. The two of them hid in the dark and waited. An hour later, the entrance was still empty. Occasionally, a few ferocious beasts would pass by, indicating that there was no one nearby. Yi Xingqian was still worried and continued to wait in the dark. As expected. After another hour, two masked martial emperors flew over and released their spiritual senses into the valley. They couldn't help but complain when they didn't find anything. Could they have slipped away? There's only one exit in the Yin mountain ridge. It shouldn't be. The disciples of the sect of all times are a little strange. Perhaps they used some secret technique to escape. They must return to Azure Sun County. We can intercept them on the way. That's right. The two Wu Huang flew into the air and left the Yin mountain ridge. Two martial kings had disappeared in front of the four of them. This was very depressing. Junior brother. Xiao Ziji transmitted his voice, can we leave now? Let's go. Yi Xingqian set off. The two of them left the Yin mountain ridge smoothly, but they did not plan to return to the sect. Winning first place in the human series was not enough to satisfy Night Emperor. He wanted to challenge the Earth series geniuses. Huff huff, however, when the two of them traveled for a few miles, they seemed to have triggered some kind of restriction. The space around them distorted and they appeared in an illusory environment. Not good. Yi Xingqian frowned and said, it's a formation. Ha ha ha. A masked Wu Huang walked in and laughed strangely, do you really think you can leave safely by hiding inside and using some kind of treasure to hide your presence? He could not find anyone in the Yin mountain ridge, so he set up a formation outside and waited for them to walk into the trap. You too. The man said indifferently, don't resist. Come with me. Where to? No need to ask. You'll know when you get there. What if we don't go? That's not up to you. Yi Xingqian said, in that case, we can only go with you. Junior brother, as soon as Xiao Ziji opened his mouth, Yi Xingqian transmitted his voice, we'll decide after we get out of the formation. In the current situation, they could not win. They were also trapped in the formation. They could only pretend to compromise and find another way to escape. Night Emperor might be arrogant, but it did not mean that he was stupid. He would not act rashly in a situation that was extremely disadvantageous to him. Of course. If he could turn danger into safety, he could try. The problem was that he could not be reckless. However, Yi Xingqian reminded them, the patriarch values his disciples very much. You'd better think about the consequences. Otherwise, the gains will not make up for the losses. Kid, don't waste time. Wu Huang said indifferently, do you want to seal your meridians or do you want me to do it? Yi Xingqian and Xiao Ziji looked at each other and cooperated to seal their meridians. Whoosh! The flowing light dissipated and the formation was removed. The leader standing outside said, we've wasted a lot of time. Let's return quickly. Two of his companions walked towards Yi Xingqian and Xiao Ziji. Just as they were about to take them away, they saw a flowing light in the distance and then stopped in midair. A cold voice came, no one can leave. Patriarch. Xiao Ziji was overjoyed. Yi Xingqian said, you're in trouble. Chapter 618. The four Wu Huang looked up and saw the young man hovering in midair. He had a pair of wings that seemed to be made of some kind of ore. Although they were wearing masks and their expressions could not be seen clearly, they must be very surprised. The leader Wu Huang seemed to have understood something from Xiao Ziji's shout. He said in a low voice, are you Jun Changshao? Ta! Jun Changshao landed lightly on the ground and said calmly, you can't beat the disciple of the sect of all times, so you sent Wu Huang to ambush me. Do you people from the northwest Hezhou have no shame? He was very angry. Although my disciple is usually arrogant, at least he challenged me fair and square. What's the point of using such underhanded means when you can't beat him? Yi Xingqian said telepathically, Patriarch, they might not be from the northwest Hezhou. They're not. Jun Changxiao's eyes were filled with shock. Could it be that someone was deliberately framing him so that he and the northwest Hezhou would have a conflict and turn it into a fight? You're thinking too much. The system said. If the four Wu Huang were not from the northwest Hezhou, Jun Patriarch's consideration was not without reason. In this world, although martial strength was the most powerful, there were also people who played tricks. The four Wu Huang were sure that the newcomer was the patriarch of the sect of all times, but they were also very curious. Could the wings on his back be some kind of treasure that could help him fly? Jun Patriarch. The leader Wu Huang said calmly, we mean no harm. I don't care if you mean no harm. Jun Changxiao said, you dare to provoke the sect of all times. You must pay the price. Humph, one of the Wu Huang said coldly, I've heard that Jun Patriarch is a very arrogant person. Today, I see that you live up to your reputation. Swoosh! Jun Changxiao took out the green dragon crescent blade and said indifferently, are you guys coming one by one or all together? After breaking through to the pinnacle of the sword and martial king and obtaining the sacred flame body, he wanted to find someone to fight. Damn it! He could finally act tough to his heart's content. Speaking of which, the four Wu Huangs were not weak either. The leader was Wu Huang of the 5th pin, and the other three were Wu Huang of the 4th pin, who belonged to the middle high level. In Lu province in the northeast, Jun Changxiao was a 7th grade king of sword and martial arts, but he might not have the upper hand in front of the palace master of the extreme coldness palace. Now, he was confident that he could fight against 4 people at once. Whether or not he was confident would only be known after the fight. The 4 Wu Huang looked at each other as if they had come to a decision. Their leader, Wu Huang, said, Jun Patriarch is a young hero. I'd like to learn from you. This meant that he had agreed. From our point of view, it was obvious that it would be 4 against 1. They would not underestimate Jun Changxiao. After all, he had defeated the half-step Wu Sheng. However, they did not think that they had no chance of winning. It was widely known that the patriarch of the sect of all times had activated a supernatural power, and his cultivation level had skyrocketed instantly, which allowed him to defeat the half-step Wu Sheng. Since it was a supernatural power, there must be a limit. It could not be activated at will. Now, this guy flew over with the help of a pair of wings similar to a supreme treasure, which meant that he had not reached the emperor level yet. How could the 4 Wu Huangs not be able to defeat him? It had to be said. Those who could become Wu Huang were not fools. Their guesses were not far from the truth. Whoosh! The spiritual energy in Jun Changxiao's body whizzed out and turned into a giant hand that covered Yi Xingqian and Xiao Ziji. Then, he pulled them back and placed them behind him. Come on. He said impatiently, I'm in a hurry. His words enraged the 4 Wu Huangs. They all unleashed their cultivation, and the masks on their faces looked even creepier and creepier. Go! Whoosh! 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 3 Wu Huangs flew over from 3 different directions. Jun Changxiao controlled his armed wings and flew over close to the ground. The green dragon crescent blade in his hand suddenly burst into scorching flames. Whoosh! 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 He waved his blade continuously. 3 scorching flames burst out. Although the attack looked a little plain, it actually contained a very strong fire element power. Oh no! One of the Wu Huangs said in surprise, dodge. The other 2 Wu Huangs also sensed that something was wrong. They immediately suppressed the thought of using their martial arts and turned around to avoid the attack. However, the 3 scorching flames suddenly accelerated, leaving them no chance to dodge. In desperation, they could only gather their spiritual energy in front of them and form a wall of air. Boom! 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 The scorching air waves spread out. The grass and trees that were affected instantly evaporated into nothingness. Thump. 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 The three Wu Huangs were sent flying. They retreated dozens of feet in an extremely embarrassing manner. The wall of air in front of them had been violently destroyed. Crack at this moment, the masks on their faces cracked and fell off quickly, revealing three pale faces. The masks were weird enough, but their faces were even weirder. They looked like zombies who had never seen the sun and lived in a dark environment all year round. Jun Changshao said, "Are you evil cultivators? Normal martial artists would never look like this. Only evil cultivators who went to extremes would look so frightening. This guy is very strong." The leader Wu Huang, who was still wearing a mask, said in a low voice, "Get into formation and fight." "Okay." The other three Wu Huangs suppressed their boiling blood and immediately spread out. They kept a distance from each other and made complicated hand gestures. Whoosh, in an instant, dark element surged out from their bodies and then connected with each other. They are really evil cultivators. Jun Changshao raised the corner of his mouth with a trace of disdain. At this moment, he guessed that they might be sent by the Devil Slayer sect and the God-slaying Hall to deliberately instigate a feud between him and the Northwest He Prefecture. Fortunately, he did not bring his disciples here. Otherwise, alerting the forces here would only make things more troublesome. The dark aura was still being released and quickly intertwined into a large net, covering the sky and the earth. Jun Chang laughed coldly and said, "You're just a lowly demon." Whoosh, as he spoke, the surface of the green dragon crescent blade was suddenly covered in flames, and the surrounding temperature rose crazily. "This is," the leader Wu Huang said in shock, "Scarlet Star Absolute Flame. How is this possible?" The other three Wu Huangs were shocked. As a divine-grade fire seed, the Scarlet Star Absolute Flame was not only explosive, but it could also burn all evil. It was the nemesis of evil cultivators. Break! Jun Changshao held his blade and slashed at the large net that was pressing down. The explosive blade aura burst out and tore the net apart. Under the burning temperature, the dark element was instantly evaporated into nothingness. Puff! The three Wu Huangs vomited blood. Swoosh! At this moment, Jun Changshao flew over and waved his green dragon crescent blade again. Three flaming blade auras carrying the Scarlet Star Absolute Flame slashed down from 3,000 feet high. Crack, crack, crack. The friction between the blade auras and the space was crackling as if it was going to collapse at any time. Boom! 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 The three Wu Huangs did not have a chance to dodge at all. They were hit by the flaming blade auras and were blown away like cannonballs. When they landed on the ground, there were deep slashes on their chests, and they felt as if their souls were being roasted. Their faces suddenly became ferocious. To be honest, this was an instant kill. The leader Wu Huang saw that the situation was not good. He immediately flew into the sky and fled toward the endless sky. Want to run? Jun Changshao sneered and immediately controlled the armed wings to chase after him. He was really fast. In just a few breaths, he caught up with the escaping Wu Huang and slashed at him. The other party would not stand still and hurriedly formed a wall of air in front of him. Boom! The heavy saber slashed down ruthlessly, mercilessly shattering the chi wall. Boom! Wu Huang fell from the sky like a cannonball and then sank into the ground. The mask on his face had been shattered, revealing a pale face. Thud! Jun Changshao flew down and stabbed the green dragon crescent blade into his neck, only a millimeter away from his flesh. He said in a cold voice, "Who sent you?" Chapter 619. The four martial emperors had condensed the evil Yin attribute. Although it was frightening, it was still suppressed by the Scarlet Star Absolute Flame, which was the purest Yang attribute flame. Patriarch is so powerful. Xiao Ziji's eyes were filled with admiration. Yi Xingqian was not surprised. If the sect leader had unleashed the power of his previous punch, which had caused the ground to sink for dozens of miles, the four martial emperors would have been dead by now. He was talking about the armed wing combat form. Jun Changshao didn't even bother to use it because the Red Star Absolute Flame alone was more than enough to kill them. Therefore, it was worth it to spend 20,000 contribution points to kill a few Wu Huangs at the peak of the king level. It was impossible for a king-level martial artist to defeat a Wu Huang. However, Jun Changshao was an exception. Because of the system, this kind of special existence couldn't be understood by normal means. It was possible that a nuclear bomb would appear in the store one day and destroy the whole world. Wu Huang fell to the ground in pain. However, he didn't dare to move because the heavy broadsword was right next to his neck. My patience is limited, Jun Changshao said coldly. He could easily kill the 4 Wu Huangs, but he had to figure out who they were and what they wanted. If I tell you, will I be spared? Wu Huang asked weakly. Of course. Jun Changshao said lightly. Okay. Wu Huang said, let me catch my breath. Taking a direct hit from the Scarlet Star Absolute Flame, which contained the power of the Scarlet Star Absolute Flame, had seriously injured him. Jun Changshao said, don't play any tricks, or, bang. Before he could finish speaking, the martial emperor who was lying on the ground suddenly disappeared, leaving behind only a cloud of white smoke, which then disappeared with the wind. Jun Changshao's mouth twitched. Fuck, I haven't even finished speaking, and he's really playing tricks. Bang! 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 At the same time, the other 3 Wu Huangs also disappeared into thin air, leaving only white smoke behind. Patriarch. Yi Xingqian transmitted his voice, these people must have used some kind of escape technique. I was too careless. Jun Changshao said in annoyance. 1,000 miles away. For Wu Huang appeared out of thin air, then staggered and fell to the ground, their faces even paler. Just as Yi Xingqian had said, they had used an escape technique. Although they had escaped danger, their bodies had fallen into a worse state. I didn't expect the patriarch of the sect of all times to be so powerful. The 4 of us aren't even a match for him. Wu Huang, the leader, said with difficulty. If that guy didn't have a divine tier flame like the Scarlet Star Absolute Flame, we might not have lost so miserably. This mission has failed. When we return, we will inevitably be punished by the Lord. Hearing the word punishment, everyone's expression became even more painful, and a chill ran down their spines. Let's go. Wu Huang, the leader, got up with difficulty and said, let's find a place to heal first. Jun Changshao sat cross-legged on a huge rock, holding his chin and saying, could they have been sent by the demon fiend sect and the god-slaying hull? It's possible, Xiao Ziji said. There were only 2 evil cultivation forces that had a grudge against the sect of all times, so it was easy to make the connection. Yi Xingqian said, the demon fiend sect and the god-slaying hull just suffered a setback. Why would they be so stupid as to send the 4th or 5th rank Wu Huang? That's true, Jun Changshao said. He had just redeemed Wu Huang with spirit stones, so the 2 evil sects should be aware of his strength. If they sent a few more middle-level Wu Huang, wouldn't it be the same as sending them to their deaths? Besides, Yi Xingqian said, in order to capture us, they directly sent 4 Wu Huang. The third-rate evil sects might not be able to do it. You mean, these people might be from the first or second-rate evil sects? Jun Changshao said. Yi Xingqian guessed, maybe they're not from the evil sects, but from the darkness sect. Darkness sect? This was the first time Jun Changshao had heard of it. Yi Xingqian said, hidden in the dark, unknown forces are collectively known as the darkness sect. The darkness sect forces did not like to show themselves, and there were no legends of them in the martial arts world. The most representative of the darkness sect was the former shadowless sect. This was a force similar to an assassin, developing in the dark for thousands of years. Although they did not have many disciples, they were extremely powerful, not weaker than the first or second-rate sections. Unfortunately, later on, they offended the previous life's Yi Xingqian and were directly destroyed. The process was extremely difficult. Our Night Emperor spent a few years before finally catching them all in one fell swoop. To be able to make a martial emperor spend so much effort, one could see how hidden the darkness sect forces were. Jun Changshao rubbed his temples and thought to himself, my understanding of this world is still a bit lacking. Not lacking. Apart from the top experts, not many people knew about the darkness sect. Yi Xingqian did not continue to challenge the earth geniuses, and instead returned to the sect with the patriarch. If the 4 Wu Huang came from the darkness sect forces, it meant that the sect of all times had been targeted, and there might be other movements. To avoid trouble, it was better to continue cultivating in the sect. Whoever dares to say that Night Emperor is scared, I'll give them a thumbs up. Shwa! He spread his wings and quickly flew away. Not long after, Jun Changshao brought Yi Xingqian and Xiao Ziji to the sect's martial arts practice field and gathered the disciples, reminding them to be careful when they went out for missions, and to immediately contact the sect if they encountered any danger. No matter which force the 4 Wu Huang came from, since they dared to make a move on his disciples, they might come again. There was no harm in being careful. However, this kind of existence that hid in the dark really made Jun Changshao unhappy. Patriarch Li Luoqiu walked in and said, "Why are you looking for me?" Jun Changshao said, "I want to develop the intelligence network, do you have any good suggestions?" The intelligence network had been expanding, but the progress was relatively slow. He planned to pave the way for it to reach a large scale as soon as possible. As long as there were enough sources of information, even the darkness sect forces hiding underground might not be impossible to find. This was a good idea. Back then, although Night Emperor did not rely on intelligence, he still released his spiritual will and spread it across more than half of the world. Bit by bit, he finally found the shadowless sect that was hiding in the dark. Jun Changshao could not cover more than half of the falling star continent with his spiritual will. If there were enough sources of intelligence, it would be equivalent to having countless pairs of eyes. Li Luoqiu said, "I have been thinking about this problem recently. Actually, we can learn from Demon Fiend's sect and Murdering God Palace and set up branches in the various provinces and let them gather intelligence in the designated areas." That's a good idea. Jun Changshao said, "It can be implemented." Li Luoqiu said, "Not only do we need a large number of intelligence agents to establish a branch, we also need people with higher strength to oversee it. With the current manpower of our sect of all times, I'm afraid it will be difficult to do so." Do you think that the people in Demon Fiend's sect and Murdering God Palace are all disciples of the sect? Jun Changshao said. Li Luoqiu understood, and said, "Patriarch means to recruit martial cultivators from the outside and work for our sect through an employment relationship?" That's right. Jun Changshao said. Jiangye was not a disciple of the Demon Fiend sect, but he had worked for them for many years. If the sect of all times established branches in the various provinces, there was no need to personally send disciples over. They could recruit others to work for them. Chapter 620. After learning about the existence of the darkness sect, Jun Changshao understood that the waters of the falling star continent were very deep. Some things might not be clear just by looking at them. Therefore, he had to establish a better intelligence network so that he wouldn't be so blind. Every county in southwest Yangzhou, even the royal city, must have a branch of the sect of all times. Jun Changshao pointed at the map and drew a big circle. Li Luoqiu asked, "Are we going to do it openly or in the dark?" "Of course, we will open a branch openly," Jun Changshao said. In his plan, not only did he want to build a branch, but he also wanted to build it in the biggest city in the county, on the busiest street. He wanted everyone to know that this branch was opened by the sect of all times. Qingyang City. Jun Patriarch personally came and told Xie Guanquan about his idea of opening a branch. "No problem." City Lord Xie said straightforwardly, "It will be best if you can choose a prime location." "Thank you." Jun Changshao placed a spirit-tempering pill on the table and said, "This is just a small token of my appreciation." He wouldn't let his friend help him for free. This was also why City Lord Xia and the others were willing to help him. It was because he was worthy of their friendship. Since they were all old acquaintances, Xie Guangquan didn't refuse. He took the pill and said softly, "Jun Patriarch, what is the effect of this pill?" "It can refine one's spirit energy after consumption," Jun Changshao said. Xie Guangquan was stunned. After sending him off, he hurriedly consumed the pill. When the spirit energy in his dantian became purer than before, he said in shock, "This is too miraculous." A few days later, in the busiest district of Qingyang City, a high-end shop opened. Many people thought it was a shop, but when they removed the red cloth on the signboard, they realized that it was a branch of the Sect of all times. It was common for a powerful sect to establish a branch, so the martial artists in Qingyang City weren't surprised. Huyang City, Xingyang City, and other cities also opened branches. All 8 cities in Qingyang County had branches. The other counties only had branches in the main cities. After all, it required more manpower and resources to cover everything. True Sun City, County Governor's Office. Zhuo Chaochuan put the letter on the table with an ugly expression and said, "Jun Changshao wants to open a branch in our Xinjiang County." County Governor. One of the strategists frowned and said, "Raising the Devil Fiend Sect and the God-slaying Hall's branches to the ground, yet opening up branches in the various counties himself. I'm afraid this lad has some ambitions." It was a misunderstanding. Jun Patriarch was purely developing an intelligence agency. Zhuo Chaochuan did not speak. At this moment, he was very conflicted. Should he allow it or reject it? When County Chief Zhuo thought about how Yi Futian could even defeat a half-saint, he could only let out a long sigh and said, "This lad's wings are fully grown. It's better not to go against him." He was terrified and compromised. A few days later, Truyang City's Sect of All Times branch was established. In just half a month, branches of the Sect of All Times sprung up like bamboo shoots after a spring rain in every county and main city in southwest Yangzhou. The function of the branch was not only to gather information, but also to cultivate some non-sect disciples to increase their own strength. It was nothing more than, "I'll take money to support you, and you'll do things for me." Heavenly Mandate Imperial City. What was originally an ordinary day became especially lively. There was no other reason. The Sect of All Times branch was established in the most prosperous area in the Western District. Jun Patriarch, congratulations, congratulations. The Chu clan leader brought his servants and came to congratulate him with generous gifts. After that, the Hua clan, the Zhong clan, and other major clans came to congratulate him personally. The Heavenly Mandate Academy and the Certification Center also sent people over. The most important person was naturally still the city lord, Mu Changhong. For a moment, the Sect of All Times branch gathered many important people in the imperial city. The warriors who were watching the show all sighed. The Sect of All Times that had just risen in the Jianghu was so powerful that it was beyond imagination. Because it was a local force, the Sect of All Times had no problem establishing a branch in southwest Yangzhou. However, it was a little troublesome to expand outside. Many county cities would definitely be resistant to foreign forces establishing branches in their own territory. However, many cities could only compromise and allow the Sect of All Times to open branches under their noses because they were afraid of its power. Northwest Hezhou, Imperial City. Yi Xingchen had just tortured the martial cultivators here. Not long after, the Sect of All Times branch was established. No one came to congratulate him on the opening day. As long as the warriors passing by saw the hanging signs, their eyes were filled with disgust. The most annoying thing was that on this street, there were 2 branches of the Demon Sect and the Deicide Hall in northwest Hezhou. On purpose. It must be on purpose. The leaders of the 2 branches were so angry that their faces were red. Who didn't know that the Sect of All Times had just destroyed 2 branches of the evil sects in southwest Yangzhou not long ago? Now that they were establishing a branch under their noses, they were definitely infuriating them. Yes. They were infuriating them. Life and death were indifferent. If they were not convinced, they would do it. As the overall strength of the sect increased, Jun Patriarch straightened his back. Patriarch. Li Luocho walked into the main hall and said, "All 26 branches have been established." Jun Changshao nodded. 26 branches needed 26 leaders, and the positions were temporarily taken by members of the Drizzle Hall. Patriarch. Li Luocho said, "My Drizzle Hall has transferred a lot of people. You still have to assign more disciples. How about this?" Jun Changshao thought for a while and said, "Drizzle Hall can choose the new disciples that are recruited every month." Okay. Li Luocho left in satisfaction. A few days later, the Sect of All Times examination rules were established, and it was the second time they recruited disciples. The news spread to the various counties. Many martial cultivators knew that joining the Sect of All Times required them to go through an examination, so they traveled long distances to see if they could do it. There were a lot of people who signed up this time, a total of 6,000 to 7,000 people. Those who could really pass the first examination and reach the top of the mountain were only slightly more than 1,000 people. In the end, in the martial technique examination, a total of more than 500 people who signed up successfully passed, and became disciples. Jun Patriarch did not participate in this method of recruiting disciples. A few elders were in charge of everything, and all he could do was listen to the beautiful sounds of the number of people and contribution points increasing. Even the new disciples would be arranged by Li Qingyang and the others. It was only a matter of time before he could leave everything to others. In a sect, especially a strong one, the patriarch could not do everything by himself. This method of development was inevitable, and also the most reasonable. The benefits of the disciples recruited through the examination were also gradually revealed. The few hundred people who joined a month ago gradually adapted to the sect's cultivation system, and their growth was very fast. The disciples who went through the selection undoubtedly had potential. Over time, the martial arts resources saved would also be very large. It was obviously better than confirming with eyes or simply asking to recruit disciples. The disadvantage was that the elimination rate was too high. Jun Changshao was not worried. If they could recruit 200 to 300 people in a month, it would be a lot in a year. Moreover, even if there was no limit to the number of disciples in the sect, it would be a waste of time to recruit 100,000 disciples without enough resources to nurture them. It was better to recruit slowly and let nature take its course. Chapter 621. When the branches were fully operational, many provinces and cities were in an uproar. This was because the Sect of All Times branches announced to the public that they were recruiting talents and the benefits were very generous. For example, recruiting 50 salesmen with a monthly salary of 10,000 taels. The more you work, the more you get. Recruiting 10 protectors of the branches. Peak Wuzong with a monthly salary of 5 spirit stones. Martial kings with a monthly salary of 10 natural spirit stones. The condition was that they were only recruiting rogue cultivators. Any martial cultivators with power or clans were not allowed to disturb them. Those who performed well during the term could be recommended by the branch to become a member of the Sect of All Times. Once this recruitment notice was released, it immediately caused a huge uproar in the various cities. Many rogue cultivators were eager to join. "I've worked hard for half my life and achieved nothing. Why not give it a try? Let's go sign up." In an instant, the entrances of the Sect of All Times branches were packed with people. There was no lack of Peak Wuzong or even martial kings among them. They didn't care about the monthly salary, but they were very tempted by the chance to become a member of the Sect of All Times. Actually, many martial cultivators had the intention to join, but they had heard that this sect with the potential to become one of the top 3 sects would usually recruit young people with good potential. If they worked for the Sect of All Times, not only would they get a salary, they would also have the opportunity to join. Why not? Patriarch. Li Luocho reported as usual, the branches have already recruited many Wuzong. Among them, there are 10 martial kings. Not bad, not bad. Jun Changshao said, "Observe more. Those who are sincere can be accepted into the sect." Li Luocho paused and said, I just received news that people from the Lily Holy Sect are on their way to visit. Oh? Jun Changshao said in surprise, why are they here? Not long after, the Lily Holy Sect's letter arrived. The sect of all times knew in advance before the letter was delivered. It could be seen that the sect of all times had done a very good job in gathering information. The 3-year agreement is around the corner. Jun Changshao held his chin and murmured, why are they coming at this time? Li Luoqiu said, maybe they want to probe. Jun Changshao grinned and said, do you think it's so easy to probe the sect of all times? Boom! Boom! Inside the training room, Xiao Zuiji bombarded the testing machine again and again. The strength value was constantly changing, and his whole body was drenched in sweat. Every day, after he finished cultivating, he would come here to test himself. Even if it was just a catty increase, he felt that it was incomparably precious. Only those who had truly experienced loss would understand how difficult it was to obtain it again. Xiao Ziji was the patriarch. Without him, the patriarch, he would not where he was today. Sects, SSS, S's, S, 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 I. Jun Changshao leaned against the door and said, an elder of the Lily Holy Sect will come to visit with his disciples soon. Xiao Ziji was startled. Wiping the sweat from his forehead, he whispered, did she come too? Yes. According to the latest information from the branch, Murong Xian had also come. Xiao Ziji sighed and shook his head. Are they here to humiliate me again? He would never forget the scene of Murong Xian bringing people from the sect to the Xiao family to break off the engagement a few years ago when his cultivation regressed and he became a cripple. Patriarch Xiao, I came here this time for no other reason than to ask my disciple to break off the engagement with your family. If I have to give a reason, it's that he's not worthy. It's a great opportunity for your Xiao family to have a genius with a top-grade spirit root. However, people of this level can be seen everywhere in my sect, so the engagement must be broken off today. Every word that the elder of the Lily Holy Sect had said to the Xiao clan had pierced through Xiao Zui's heart, causing him to subconsciously clench his fists every time he dreamed of it. He had no feelings for Murong Xian, so it didn't matter if the engagement was broken off. You're high above, and I'm an ant. It doesn't matter. But why do you have to trample on me? What? This kid lost his spirit root, and his cultivation regressed again. When the sect elder learned about Xiao Ziji's recent situation, her arrogance became even stronger. Without spirit root and cultivation, he's a complete trash. Naturally, he's even less worthy of junior sister Murong. This is the first time I've heard of a spirit root falling. It seems that your Xiao family has done a lot of things that the heavens can't tolerate. It's a wise move for junior sister to break off the engagement. Otherwise, if she marries a trash, her whole life will be ruined. The sect's disciples who followed them kept silent at first. Perhaps they thought that their aptitude was not as good as Xiao Ziji's. But when they learned that he had lost his aptitude and cultivation, they all jumped out to mock him. They were not angry that the sect had gone too far, but angry that this direct descendant who had brought glory to the family had now brought endless humiliation. Elder Cheng. Xiao family head smiled. We'll break off this engagement. A second-rate sect was an unreachable giant to the Xiao family. Naturally, they did not dare to disobey. This is 10,000 taels of silver. The sect elder's tone was still arrogant. Consider it compensation for breaking off the engagement. Seeing the family head accept the 10,000 taels of silver that represented humiliation, Xiao Ziji finally could not help but spit out a mouthful of blood. I'm sorry. Before Murong Xian left, she had said such a sentence. You still want to humiliate me before leaving? Xiao Ziji clenched his fists. His fingernails sunk into his flesh. Blood dripped out, but he did not feel the slightest bit of pain. Because this bit of pain was nothing compared to the pain of having his dignity trampled on. After the people of the Lily Holy Sect left, the Xiao clan immediately held a family meeting. Oh, no, it was a meeting to criticize Xiao Zuiji for the second time. That day, No one knew how Xiao Ziji came back to life. When he gradually regained consciousness, he had already been expelled from the family. The harm from the sect and the abandonment of the Xiao family made him completely disheartened. He wandered outside for a full 5 years. Killing people was just a matter of time. This kind of destruction of dignity and spirit was the most fatal. Thinking of the unbearable past, Xiao Ziji subconsciously clenched his fists again. His face was slightly ferocious. Breaking off the engagement. Acceptable. But that kind of trampling on dignity was something that no man could accept. Therefore, this was one of the things that Xiao Ziji could not forgive Murong Xian. Because every time he saw her, he would think of the sect elder's demonic face. Jun Changshao leaned against the door and did not speak. Although he did not witness the scene of the engagement being broken off, he could guess that when a second-rate sect brought Murong Xian to break off the engagement, there would definitely be a lot of words to humiliate and show off their superiority. Therefore, when that woman visited the sect of all times, she made Xiao Ziji set a 3-year agreement. It was not to prove how great she could be in the future, but to use strength to take back the dignity that she had lost. Humiliation. Jun Changxiao's gaze was cold. My sect of all times disciples, no one can, is not allowed, and does not dare to. Chapter 622. Jun Changxiao could not help much with Xiao Ziji's past experience, because it had already happened. All he could do now was not to let any of his disciples suffer the slightest grievance. Lu Qianqian had encountered trouble in northeast Luzhou and had rushed over in a fit of anger. This was the best proof. No one dared to bully the disciples of the sect of all times. Jun Changxiao was very protective of his disciples. If one had to force an explanation, it would be love. He loved Xiao Ziji, loved Li Qingyang, and loved every disciple of the sect of all times. This kind of love was more like that of a parent of a family. He silently watched his children grow up, was happy for their progress, and was proud of their strength. Of course, he would not tolerate others bullying them. Patriarch, Xiao Ziji was so touched that his eyes were about to tear up. All resources were provided, and everyone stood up for him when he was bullied. Such a patriarch, such a sect, how could he not use his life to defend it? Sinful self, remember this. Jun Changxiao said seriously, the first motto of the sect of all times is that men have gold under their knees. Men bleed but not tears. Xiao Ziji raised his head and puffed out his chest, forcibly holding back his tears. Have a good rest. Jun Changxiao patted his shoulder and said, adjust your condition to your best state. Let those who once trampled on you understand what it means to not bully a poor young man. Yes. Xiao Ziji said loudly, his eyes filled with pride. After returning to the main hall, Jun Changxiao called Li Luoqiu over and said with a serious face, find out who went to the Xiao family a few years ago as soon as possible. Xiao Ziji's subconscious clenching of his fists and the ferocious expression on his face were definitely not faked. He must have suffered great humiliation in the past. Investigate. He had to investigate. Even if it had already happened, he had to be calculative. He did not ask Xiao Ziji, because some things were like scars. Even if it was gently opened, it would still hurt. Okay. Li Luoqiu withdrew. After the information was released, the speed of information collection was very fast. Half a day later, Li Luoqiu brought news, the one who went to the Xiao family to cancel the engagement is the 11th elder of the Bai He Holy Sect, Qing Huixin. Murong Xian is her direct disciple, and there were 6 other people who went with her. Although we can't confirm their identities, they are all direct descendants of the younger generation. This information was gathered in Liang City. At that time, it had caused quite a stir. Even though 6 or 7 years had passed, it was still fresh in his memory. However, right now, Liang City was filled with discussions. Xiao Ziji, who had his marriage annulled and was abandoned by his family, was reborn. He was also an inner disciple of the sect of all times. What kind of terrifying achievements would he have in the future? Qing Huixin. Jun Changshao noted it down. Li Luoqiu said, the visiting elder of the Lily Holy Sect this time is also this woman. Really? Jun Changshao tapped his fingers rhythmically on the table, then smiled coldly and said, it's really fate. In the mountains, a group of good-looking female martial cultivators were resting. Among them was Xiao Ziji's ex-fiancée, Murong Xian. At this moment, she was sitting on a huge rock with a sullen look on her face. Junior sister. A female disciple walked over and said, you haven't smiled since you came out of the sect. Is there something on your mind? No. Murong Xian said casually. In my opinion. The disciple beside her said, junior sister definitely doesn't want to see that Xiao Ziji. After all, a few years have passed, and the difference between the two of them is like heaven and earth. That's right. Another person said, junior sister's talent is extraordinary, and she has broken through to the martial king realm. That trash from Qingyang County, even if he still has his spirit root and cultivation, he doesn't even have the right to carry her shoes. Senior sister, stop talking. Murong Xian frowned. Sigh. One of them said, junior sister, you're no longer engaged to him. Why is it that after so many years, every time you mention him, it feels like you're protecting him? Could it be that you still have feelings for him? Someone guessed. Junior sister is such a proud daughter of the heavens. Many outstanding geniuses from large sects want to marry her. A trash like him isn't worth thinking about. Murong Xian frowned slightly. When she was young, her senior sisters often said the same thing. At that time, she felt that they were praising her. However, as she grew older, Murong Xian gradually realized that the praises others gave her were all based on trampling on that person's dignity. I don't want to hurt him. I only want to work hard and cultivate and pursue higher martial arts. However, there were some things that she couldn't control. For example, Cheng Huixin walked over and said with dissatisfaction, you should have told me about the 3-year agreement between the two of you. Master, don't say any more. When you go to the sect of all times this time, I will make them give up on this agreement. After all, you still have to participate in the upcoming Dragon-Tiger battle for supremacy. You don't have the time to fight with trash, Cheng Huixin said. From her words, it wasn't hard to tell that she wasn't fated to go to the sect of all times. Instead, it was intentional. Her attitude was similar to when she brought her disciple to the Xiao clan to break off the engagement. It was a pity. The sect of all times wasn't the Xiao clan. Xiao Ziji was no longer the Xiao Ziji of the past. Everyone rested for a while before continuing on their journey. 2 days later, they arrived at the foot of the sect of all times. Is this the sect that has recently become famous in the pugilistic world? It doesn't seem to be anything special. It can't be compared to our sect at all. The disciples' eyes were filled with disdain. They had heard about Jun Changxiao's battle with a half-sage, but they didn't take it to heart. Not only did our Lily Holy Sect have an expert like half-step Wusheng, but we also have Wusheng. That guy only relied on some kind of divine ability, and it wasn't his own strength. There was nothing to be surprised about. The disciples of such a large sect really had a sense of superiority. Who are you? Jiang Ye's voice came from the mountain. Cheng Huixin said proudly, the 11th elder of the Lily Holy Sect has brought disciples to visit the sect of all times. It's her. Xiao Ziji, who was cultivating, heard that unforgettable voice, and his eyes were filled with endless anger. The painful scenes of the past instantly surged into his mind, causing his face to turn ferocious and his veins to bulge. So many years had passed. This old woman was still as high and mighty as ever. Jun Changxiao's spiritual sense had been keeping track of Xiao Zuiji this entire time. When he saw that Xiao Zuiji was so angry, he clasped his fingers together and held his chin as he muttered, "Today, I will help you get even with all the grievances you've suffered." This is the elder of the Lily Holy Sect. Jiang Ye's voice sounded, according to the rules of the sect of all times, if the sect wants to visit, they have to pass the mountain test. Mountain test? Cheng Huixin frowned. Wasn't this how the sects recruited disciples? Now that she had brought people here, and they had to do the same as them, it was obvious that she didn't care about the Lily Holy Sect at all. Of course. Jiangya added, if you think you can't do it, you can bring your disciples and leave. The Sect of all times won't force you. These words were a little provocative. The disciples of the Lily Holy Sect who came along were all furious. Even if a fifth-rate sect set up a mountain of blades and a sea of flames, how could they not do it? Okay. Chen Huixin said coldly, I want to see what's so different about the mountain test of the Sect of all times. As she spoke, she brought her disciples up. Buzz! The people of the Lily Holy Sect entered the formation one after another and stood on the first step. Chen Huixin thought disdainfully, this level of formation is really not up to standard. Watch how I break it. Whoosh as she spoke, her spiritual sense spread out. However, the moment she touched the barrier of the formation, lightning suddenly erupted in the sky inside and then became incomparably bright. Not good. Chen Huixin's expression changed drastically. Boom! At this moment, a deafening explosion suddenly came from the Iron Bone Mountain, shaking the entire ground. This was the formation had exploded. Chapter 623. As the 11th elder of the Lily Holy Sect, Chen Huixin's cultivation was not bad. She was already a 9th stage Wu Huang, and she was quite accomplished in formations. You want us to go through the entrance test? Sure. Then this old woman will break your array formation and humiliate you instead. She meant what she said. After Chen Huixin entered the formation, she spread her spiritual sense and tried to break it from the source. However, what she didn't expect was that as soon as she came into contact with the barrier, it was as if she had touched a seal, causing the entire formation to explode. He. Zhen Dexiu, who was in the sect, covered her face and laughed strangely. He had improved the formation and integrated it into the thunder formation. As long as external forces tried to break it, it would cause a huge explosion. He was really a bomb maniac. Whoosh, the wind whistled, and dust flew. When all the dust settled, a huge hole was seen in the stairs leading to the sect. Jun Changxiao's mouth twitched. If the power was a little stronger, the entire sect would be affected. No, it wouldn't. Zhen Dejuan had made many improvements, and the explosion range of the formation was limited to the stairs. Because the explosion range was reduced, the power was also reduced. However, it also made Chen Huixin very embarrassed. She stood in the deep hole, and the wall of air around her was already in a cracked state. Then, she spat out a mouthful of blood. She was injured. Master! Master! The disciples behind her were shocked. They were fine because when the formation exploded, Chen Huixin used the wall of air to protect them. Otherwise, she wouldn't have spat out blood on the spot. Elder. Jiangya's voice sounded, I forgot to tell you that touching the formation without permission will cause an explosion. This is the Sect of all times, not the Lily Holy Sect. Since you're here, you have to abide by the rules. Please don't do as you please. Chen Huixin's eyes flashed with anger. She knew that he must have done it on purpose. However, she couldn't say anything. After all, she had agreed to go through the test and broke the formation without permission. She was in the wrong. It was a classic case of trying to steal a chicken only to end up losing the rice used to lure it. Jiangya said, the formation is gone, and there's no need for the test. You can come up. Remember, the Sect of all times is full of formations. Please control yourself, or you'll be responsible for everything. Let's go. Chen Huixin lowered her voice and said, let's go up. Shwa! Shwa! All the disciples flew up and landed at the entrance of the mountain. Other than Murong Xian, everyone's eyes were filled with anger. They had suffered such a huge loss when they first came to the Sect of all times. Their sense of superiority was definitely not something they could accept. Creak! The closed mountain gate opened. Su Xiaoma walked out and cupped his hands. The patriarch is waiting in the main hall. Please follow me. Cheng Huixin coldly said, "This old woman has traveled thousands of miles to come here. Isn't your patriarch going to welcome me personally? If it's the patriarch of your sect, then the patriarch will naturally welcome you personally. But if it's an elder..." Su Xiaoma paused, and then said lightly, "You don't have this qualification." "How dare you?" A few Lily Saint Sect disciples behind him said angrily. "What?" Su Xiaoma crossed his arms and said indifferently, "You don't like it?" This guy was getting more and more mischievous. The Lily Saint Sect disciples could not take it anymore. An elder was about to say something, but was stopped by Cheng Huixin. She said lightly, "A leader of a fifth-rate sect, yet you're so arrogant." After saying that, she walked towards the sect. The disciples followed closely behind, but when they passed by Su Xiaoma, they all glared at him angrily. This despicable man was too rude. He was too uneducated. As a disciple of a famous sect, he went to the Shao clan to cancel the marriage and ridiculed and humiliated others. How was he polite and educated? This was really double standards. Stop looking. Su Xiaoma said lightly, "I'm afraid you all will fall in love with me." "I'm sorry." He said again, "Even if you have feelings for me, I won't bother with you all. Because you all look too ordinary." If their master had not already gone in, this group of beautiful Lily Saint Sect disciples would have pulled out their swords and stabbed Su Xiaoma into a hornet's nest. In the past, people from second-rate sects would be treated as VIPs no matter where they went. They would be carefully treated and flattered, afraid that they would offend them. This kind of special treatment was not allowed in the sect of all times. Because, when Cheng Huixin and the others walked in and walked towards the main hall, none of the disciples looked at them. "I thought second-rate sects were amazing, but they're just ordinary. Compared to our senior and junior sisters, they're far inferior. To be honest, it's lucky that they went to cancel the marriage first. Otherwise, with such looks, how could they be worthy of our senior brother Shao?" The disciples of the sect of all times whispered to each other. This sentence made the female disciples of the Lily Saint Sect even angrier. For people like them who came from big sects, they were very confident in their talent and looks. Now that they were called ordinary, they could not accept it. "Everyone." Li Luoqiu walked out of the main hall and smiled, "Please don't wear any weapons when entering the main hall." This woman was wearing a fashionable hall master uniform, which showed off her perfect figure without a doubt. The female disciples of the Lily Saint Sect were good-looking, but compared to our mature and enchanting hall master Li, the difference was too great. Some people would say, "I like pure girls." Yes. Ling Yuanxue was a reserved and quiet girl. She was as pure could be. The disciples of the Lily Saint Sect could not compare to her. As for cuteness, it was even more incomparable. Lu Wanshi, Yao Menjing, and even the human form Xiao Maxian could instantly crush them. "You want to compete?" "Yes." She called Lu Qianqian over. This aloof eldest senior sister, no matter if it was her aura or temperament, she could easily throw these female disciples, who boasted that they had good aptitudes and good looks, thousands of miles away. No wonder the disciples of the sect of all times were whispering. They were not deliberately making things difficult, but the senior and junior sisters were all outstanding beauties. The people of the Lily Saint Sect looked down on them. Of course. Murong Xian's looks were also good. Besides her, the other female disciples were no match for her in terms of looks. Cheng Huixin said with a sullen expression, "Martial artists never leave their weapons." Even their Lily Saint Sect did not have a rule that forbade bringing weapons into the main hall. "My apologies." Li Luoqiu smiled. "This is a rule set by my sect of all times. Since you have come to visit, you should abide by it." "And if we don't abide by it?" Cheng Huixin asked. Li Luoqiu said, "You may leave." Cheng Huixin's expression became increasingly ugly. She could see that the sect of all times was deliberately making things difficult for them. A newly promoted fifth-rate sect dared to treat a second-rate sect like this. Where did their courage come from? June Patriarch. Cheng Huixin coldly shouted, is this how the sect of all times treats their guests? Elder Cheng. Jun Changxiao's voice sounded out from the main hall. When in Rome, do you need me to tell you the truth? Cheng Huixin was so angry that her hands trembled. Also, Jun Changxiao said, please tell your disciples to restrain their anger. In my sect of all times, no one will spoil them. Fourth update. P.S. I would like to thank Chidian Reader, Unfathomable Winter, for his gift of 50,000 book coins. Let me tell you, because the book is the first creation, I can see the rewards from Q reading and Q reading. However, I have no way of knowing the rewards from Chidian and other channels. Furthermore, I rarely go to Chidian, so I can only see the number of rewards. I have no way of knowing who gave me the rewards. However, those who gave me a large amount of rewards will appear in the comments section in red. I can find the names and list them out to express my gratitude. Chapter 624. When Cheng Huixin came, she had heard that the patriarch of the sect of all times was young and arrogant. Now that she was here, she realized that he was not the only arrogant one. Even the entire sect was arrogant. Jun Patriarch. Cheng Huixin stood outside the main hall and said coldly, if that's the case, I won't enter the main hall. I came here today because I hope that the 3-year agreement between your sect of all times and my disciple will be cancelled. She didn't really come here to visit. She just wanted to settle the matter. Jun Changxiao said, Elder Cheng came to Azure Sun County last time to cancel the marriage. Now, you're here again to cancel the agreement. If this is how the Lily Holy Sect always does things, the people of Jianghu will despise you. His words were no different from pointing at someone's nose. Cheng Huixin couldn't take it anymore and said angrily, Jun Changxiao, meaningless fights will only delay the cultivation of my disciples. If you want to fight, you can find another sect. Understood. Jun Changxiao said, Elder Cheng, you look down on the disciples of the sect of all times. I'm not looking down on you. Cheng Huixin said indifferently, that's the truth. Jun Changxiao walked out of the main hall with his hands behind his back and said with a smile, Elder Cheng, to put it bluntly, the disciples behind you, other than Murong Xian, aren't even qualified to be a disciple of the sect of all times. Cheng Huixin was even angrier. The disciples of the Lily Holy Sect also glared at him. The aura of the disciples of the sect of all times was only at the martial master level. How could they be compared to a Wuzong like her? You're not convinced? Jun Changxiao said coldly, why don't we exchange some pointers? He had heard everything these people said when they came to the foot of the mountain. Incomparable to the Lily Holy Sect? Fine, fine. I don't care about the reputation of bullying women. I must beat your faces until they're swollen and lose your sense of superiority. I must beat you until you recognize reality. Cheng Huixin said indifferently, Jun Patriarch, I'm here to cancel the fight. I didn't bring my disciples here to challenge you. Sure. Jun Changxiao said, we'll talk about it after you beat my sect of all times. You really want to compete? Of course. All right. Cheng Huixin said, I've heard that the disciples of the sect of all times have extraordinary strength. My Holy Springs sect would like to experience it for myself. Ling Yuanxue, fight! Jun Changxiao said. To deal with Nvlayu, he definitely couldn't send men like Li Qingyang and Yi Xingchen. Naturally, he had to send a female disciple. Before they could reach an agreement, it had turned into a battle between disciples. The pace of the battle was fast. Martial arts practice field. The disciples of the sect of all times stood outside. Ling Yuanxue, who had a gentle personality, walked up a little cautiously under the gaze of her fellow disciples. Peak martial master. Cheng Huixin said faintly, Lin, go and meet her. Yes. The Sacred Spring Sect disciple called Lin, walked over. She was the 11th elder's disciple. Although she wasn't a direct disciple and her aptitude wasn't too outstanding, her strength had already reached the 6th rank of Wuzong. That, Ling Yuanxue said weakly, you're not my match. Let's change to someone else. Ridiculous. The disciple called Lin said coldly, judging from your aura, you're just a peak martial master. What ability do you have to defeat me, a 6th rank Wuzong? Really? Ling Yuanxue said, you can't beat me, or, she paused and looked at the other Sacred Spring Sect disciples. Finally, she gathered her courage and said, it's best if they all come at me together. Sigh. What a shy girl. After joining the Sect of All Times, she was influenced by the Patriarch and her fellow disciples. Her personality began to change subtly, and she became arrogant. This was really sad. However, her soft and weak demeanor was quite charming. It was similar to using her small fists to pound your chest. Senior Sister Ling wants to fight with numbers. With these people's strength, fighting them one by one will be a waste of time. It's better to fight them all at once. The contempt in the words of the Sect of All Times disciples was unusually strong. Yesterday, the Patriarch gave an order. If the people of the Lily Holy Sect came, as long as there was a chance, they would kill them. June Patriarch's approach was a little childish. Facing people who were full of superiority, it would be difficult to vent one's anger if one did not use their method to ridicule them. As expected, the disciples of the Sect of All Times fanned the flames. The Lily Holy Sect disciples, who had always been pampered, were so angry that they gritted their teeth. Lin said angrily, Senior Sister doesn't need to do anything. I can defeat you. Okay. Ling Yuanxue looked very helpless. As usual. The two stood in position and reported their names. Jiangye acted as the referee and shouted, begin. Whoosh whoosh. Lin first used Wuzong's cultivation. Before she used her martial arts, she felt a gust of wind whistling. Boom, her whole body exploded and fell directly outside the martial arts arena. Ling Yuanxue stood at the position she was standing at, slowly retracted her fist, and said, thank you for letting me win. This, Cheng Huixin was stunned. This seemingly weak girl only had the strength of a peak martial master. Why was her punch so fast and so fierce? Patriarch. Ling Yuanxue scratched her head and said, can I continue? Yes. Jun Changshao laughed. Ling Yuanxue turned around and looked at the disciples of the Sacred Spring Sect again. She said weakly, can you all come together? It was as if she was saying, I beg you, come together. Let me send all of you flying. It's a waste of time to come one by one. Master, I'll go. A disciple of the Lily Holy Sect volunteered. Go. Cheng Huixin said with a long face. As a result, when she went up to the stage and reported her name, Jiangye had just shouted, she was directly sent flying by Ling Yuanxue in the next second. Although her fist was dry and weak, the power it carried was very smooth. No. Cheng Huixin observed carefully this time and said in shock, this girl is not a martial master, but a martial king. Have I been discovered? Ling Yuanxue scratched her head awkwardly and released the aura of a martial king. Instantly, a majestic aura gathered around her. The disciples of the Lily Holy Sect who were eager to give it a try felt the psionic energy that was far stronger than their own. They were all dumbfounded. As disciples of a second-rate sect, their strength was not bad, but in front of a martial king, it was not enough. Really? Ling Yuanxue said in a pleading tone, come together. The corner of Jun Changshao's mouth twitched. She was clearly very arrogant, but why did she look so pitiful? Jun Patriarch. Cheng Huixin said in a deep voice, this girl should be an elder of your sect of all times. Isn't it a bit too much to let her pretend to be a disciple and fight with my sect's disciples? I'm sorry, she is an inner disciple of my sect of all times, not an elder. Jun Changshao shrugged and said, if your Lily Holy Sect can't afford to lose, you can choose not to play. Why do you have to find so many reasons? Crack! Cheng Huixin clenched her fists. As a senior, Wu Huang should be very calm. However, after coming to the sect of all times, he was so angry at the arrogance of Jun Changshao and his disciples that he almost vomited blood. The 7 of you come together. Yes. Apart from Murong Xian, the remaining 7 disciples of the Lily Holy Sect all came forward. The strongest among them was a peak Wuzong, and the weakest was a 7th grade Wuzong. The lineup was quite luxurious. Of course. This was not considered as fighting with numbers. After all, the opponent was a martial king. Set up the formation. After the start, the tall female disciple in the lead shouted coldly. Whoosh! Whoosh! The other 6 fellow disciples took mysterious steps and surrounded Ling Yuanxue in an instant, forming a special formation. 7-star moon capturing formation. Elder Zhen, who was standing beside Jun Changshao, said, "It was created by a master of both formations and martial arts. It is said that when 7 Wuzong use it, its power is not inferior to a martial king." Bang! Bang! Before he could finish his words, Ling Yuanxue gathered her spiritual power in her hands. She first performed the mountain collapsing fist, and then condensed the 7 profound sunglow break. In an instant, the 7 disciples of the Holy Springs sect who formed the formation were all sent flying out of the martial arts field. Elder Zhen's mouth twitched slightly. "I take back what I said just now." Ding! Side mission completed. You have received 5,000 contribution points. Ding! Sect contribution points, 13743200000. Chapter 625. No wonder Jun Patriarch was so eager to let his disciples fight. It turned out that Cheng Huixin had triggered a side mission when she came to the sect of all times. The mission was very simple: defeat the 9 disciples of the Lily Holy Sect. At first, Jun Changshao planned to pick 9 female disciples to fight one-on-one, but he didn't expect Ling Yuanxue to do it alone. To be honest, there weren't many famous and powerful female disciples in the sect of all times. Picking out 9 was making things difficult for the author. Elder Cheng. Jun Changshao cupped his hands and said, "The disciples you brought are really not that good." He was going to be sarcastic. "Even if they're retarded and childish, I'm willing." Cheng Huixin was so angry that her face turned red. Her disciple had even used the 7 stars moon capturing formation, but it was still easily broken by the other party. This girl was definitely not a low-level martial king. Sorry. Ling Yuanxue was a low-level martial king, and she had only just reached rank 1. Xian, Cheng Huixin said coldly, "Go and meet her." 9 disciples had all been defeated. She couldn't take this lying down. No need. Jun Changshao shrugged and said, "I will bring Xiao Ziji to the Lily Holy Sect to fight her on the agreed date." This sentence was telling the other party that the 3-year agreement was not invalid. In fact, they could let Xiao Ziji and Murong Xian fight now, but it would be a bit hasty. He had to defeat her in front of everyone in the Lily Saint sect. Of course. Jun Changshao added, "If your sect thinks that you have no chance of winning, you can announce to the public that you won't accept the challenge from the sect of all times." Impossible. The Lily Holy Sect was one of the top sects in the Falling Star continent. How could they be afraid of a challenge and let others think that they were afraid of a new 5th-rate sect? Okay. Cheng Huixin said coldly, "I will bring Jun Patriarch and the Lily Holy Sect to fight. Goodbye." With that, she gave the injured disciple a look, then waved her sleeves and left. This time, she came to cancel the agreement and let that kid recognize reality and stop pestering her disciple. In the end, she came, to embarrass herself. "I won't see you out," Jun Changshao said. The mission had been completed, and he had been thoroughly humiliated. He had no interest in fighting with an old woman. Murong Xian. At the entrance to the inner courtyard, Xiao Ziji walked out and said, "In the main hall of the Xiao family, in front of your master and fellow sect members, I lost the last bit of my dignity as a man. On the day of the 3-year promise, I will snatch it back in the Lily Sacred Sect." There was no anger, no resentment. His tone was flat. Instead of saying that they were looking for Murong Xian to regain their lost dignity, it would be better to say that they were looking for the Lily Holy Sect to regain their lost dignity. Morong Xian stopped. After a long time, he said, "I'll wait." After saying that, he left with his master and fellow disciples. His heart was incomparably complicated and tangled. As a member of the Lily Holy Sect, Morong Xian definitely couldn't stand the arrogance shown by the sect of all times. But thinking about it from another perspective, back then when he went to the Shao clan to break off the engagement, wasn't the humiliation from his fellow disciples even more severe? At that moment, as a bystander, Morong Xian finally understood how much pain her ignorance had brought to him. This girl's heart wasn't bad. It was just that she did the wrong thing at the wrong time. If there was still a possibility between the two of them, a talented man and a beautiful woman, a perfect pair, they could become a beautiful story in the Jianghu. But at the moment, there was almost no hope. Because Xiao Ziji would go to the Lily Holy Sect, as a disciple, she would have to fight for the sect in the end. This was fate. It was destined by the heavens, and it couldn't be changed. Boom! Boom! In the training room, Xiao Ziji was sweating profusely as he bombarded the testing stone again and again. Junior brother Xiao is crazy, he has been cultivating for the past few days and hasn't rested at all. Li Fei, who was standing outside, said. Su Xiaoma said, "This can't go on, second senior brother, why don't you go and persuade him?" As fellow disciples, they were as close as brothers. Naturally, they didn't want to see Xiao Ziji torture himself so crazily. No need. Jun Changshao walked over and said, "He knows what he's doing." Patriarch. Su Xiaoma clenched his fists, and said, "The 3-year agreement, please let me fight, and avenge junior brother Zhao's humiliation." Patriarch, I will fight too. Li Fei said. Jun Changshao said, "Then why aren't you going to cultivate, why are you standing here foolishly?" Yes. Su Xiaoma and Li Fei hurriedly went to cultivate. Although they were already king level, they knew that the disciples of second-rate sects were not ordinary people. Before the day of the battle arrived, they had to raise their strength as soon as possible and then ruthlessly trample on them. No. They were all women, so there was a problem with their words. Then bully. Tyrannize. Violence. It didn't seem right. Xiao Ziji stopped, his sweat pouring down like rain as he panted, and said, "Patriarch, junior sister Ling can defeat them, Lily Holy Sect is not outstanding in any way, this disciple is confident." I've sinned. Jun Changshao said, "I hope you can understand that the purpose of the 3-year agreement is not to defeat Mu Rongxin, but to regain the dignity and confidence that you have lost, and then step forward to a higher level." The agreement they had made before was meant to motivate Xiao Zui. In the past 2 years, he had already become a martial king, faster than expected, so he did not want to just live in revenge. Humans. When one's level is high, one should have greater ambition. Always having the mentality of revenge, in the end, it would be inferior. The system was speechless. You speak as if the host is very magnanimous, but you don't know that when the other party came, you still instigated your disciple to harm them. You don't have the slightest demeanor of a patriarch. Scram, scram. Jun Changshao said. Xiao Ziji said, "Patriarch, this disciple understands, this disciple will fight for the sake of becoming stronger. Work hard." Jun Changshao patted his shoulder. Actually, the one this guy should enlighten the most was Yi Xingqian, because that guy was the one who truly lived for hatred. The Lily Holy Sect's visit was like a small interlude, it only took 3 or 4 chapters to end. Jun Changshao was still developing the sect as usual, he would not be complacent just because Ling Yuanxue defeated the other party's 9 disciples. After all, the people he casually brought were all Wuzong cultivators, a second-rate sect could not be underestimated. Moreover, that Morong Xian had broken through to Martial King, her speed was a bit fast. The system said, second-rate sects are definitely more professional than the host sect in training disciples, especially such good seedlings, they will definitely focus on nurturing. That's true. Jun Changshao rubbed his brows and said, "The 3-year agreement is less than a year, I have to think of a way to obtain resources. If there were too many disciples, it would be difficult for a single spirit stone mine to supply enough. Money was worthless to him now, the most important thing was still spirit stones, especially natural ones. I also need to find the materials for Martial King pills. Because there was too much demand, the batch before Elder Wei finished planting was already in a state of shortage. Jun Changshao had also ordered the procurement hall to actively purchase, but in the end, they only bought a few scattered, and the price was very expensive. It's time to go out for a walk. This guy wanted to explore dangerous places again. After all, it was the fastest way to obtain all kinds of resources. Moreover, his cultivation level was stuck, and everything in the sect was normal. He had nothing to do, he might as well go out and have some fun. Opportunities were not things that could be obtained by sitting at home and waiting, he had to fight for them himself, such as jumping off a cliff or into the sea. Maybe he could find a mysterious cave and obtain the inheritance of a powerful person. Patriarch. Li Luoqiu walked in and said, Miaohua Palace sent a letter. Oh? Jun Changshao took the letter and opened it. Beautiful words were written on it. The content was not long ago, there was a natural phenomenon in the southern barren state, and it was said that a rare treasure was born. Jun Patriarch, if you are interested, you can come to Miaohua Palace together. The sender was Shi Jingxian. Her handwriting was still as beautiful as ever, and it instantly reminded him of that outstanding beauty. In just a moment, Jun Gushing focused on what he should pay attention to. He held his chin and said, a rare treasure is born. Sounds interesting. Chapter 626. Miaohua Palace. The elders were extremely depressed. The southern barren state had a natural anomaly. A supreme treasure must have appeared. After the patriarch received the news, he actually wrote a letter to Jun Changshao, telling him to wait for him to come and go together. Palace Lord. Leng Xingyue couldn't help but say, a large number of experts have entered the southern barren state. If we don't leave now, we might miss the best opportunity. No rush, no rush. Shi Jingxian said, wait for Jun Patriarch to come. Today, she wore a light blue patriarch uniform. Her long black hair was not tied up and was casually draped behind her shoulder. Leng Xingyue was speechless. He'll take at least 3 to 5 days. By then, the supreme treasure will have been taken away. Yeah. Zhangsun Fanghua said, we should leave as soon as possible. Shi Jingxian shook her head. The natural anomaly this time has alarmed many forces. There will be a lot of fighting to get the supreme treasure. With our strength, we might not be able to beat them. Zhangsun Fanghua and Leng Xingyue were silent. The natural anomaly in the southern barren state was very obvious. All the forces in the Starfall continent had received the news. Once they started fighting, it would be extremely tragic. Miaohua Palace was only a fourth-rate sect after all. There was still a big gap between them and second-rate and third-rate sections. However, they could get the supreme treasure by joining forces with the sect of all times. Did the palace lord think so highly of Jun Changshao? Or was she so infatuated with him that she had developed an unconditional absolute trust in him? Although the elders were frustrated, they could only obey and pray that the supreme treasure would not be discovered too early. Otherwise, it would be a wasted trip. Whoosh! At that moment, a gust of wind suddenly swept through the sky. Zhangsun Fanghua and Leng Xingyue frowned. They released their spiritual thoughts and saw a stream of light flying toward them. Wu Huang! The two exclaimed. Whoosh! In an instant, the stream of light at the end of the sky seemed to be right in front of them. Jun Changshao hovered outside Miaohua Palace with a pair of mechanical wings behind him. He said loudly, Palace Lord Shi, I'm here. It's Jun Patriarch. Shi Jingxian said happily. Zhangsun Fanghua and Leng Xingyue were stunned. This guy can actually fly. Has he broken through to Wu Huang? No. It must be something similar to wings. Perhaps it was some kind of supreme treasure that could allow one to fly. Also, my Lord Palace Master, if he came, then so be it. You don't have to be so happy. Jun Changshao wasn't alone. Sitting on his shoulder was the humanoid Xiao Moxian. Little Long Long had originally planned to go with his master, but he was still entrusted with the heavy responsibility of guarding the sect. His main concern was that this fellow who didn't know how to flirt with Xiao Moxian would quarrel with her. In the main hall, Jun Changshao sat at the head of the table and cupped his hands. Long time no see. Palace Master Shi has become even more beautiful. Yes. Standing in the back, Xiao Moxian blinked her eyes, saying, "How beautiful." Shi Jingxian blushed. Humph, Zhang Sun Fanghua and Ling Xingyu rolled their eyes and thought to themselves, what a glib guy. Although the two of them didn't like Jun Changshao, they were still shocked. After not seeing him for some time, this boy's aura was extremely strong. His strength should have clearly risen. Jun Patriarch. Shi Jingxian blamed herself. I've been busy with sect affairs and didn't come to congratulate you on your promotion to the sect of all times. I hope you don't mind. It's fine, it's fine. Jun Changshao didn't mind. Shi Jingxian looked at Xiao Moxian, puzzled. And this is? Before Jun Changshao could speak, Xiao Moxian spoke first. I am Master's contract beast. Contract beast? Zhang Sun Fanghua's eyes widened. Could it be that this cute little girl wasn't human? In their understanding, to be able to take human form meant that she had reached the level of a spirit beast. It seemed that the news from Northeast Lu province wasn't false. This fellow really did have a contract beast on the level of Wu Huang. Since he had gone to Extreme Cold Palace to cause trouble, Ingenious Flower Palace had naturally heard of it. So that's how it is. Shi Jingxian said, I heard that not long ago, Jun Patriarch defeated a Grand Elder of Extreme Cold Palace. Jun Changshao said, that old man came to my sect of all times to cause trouble and was captured by me. I'm still cleaning the courtyard. Zhang Sun Fanghua and Ling Xingyue's lips twitched. That was a half-step Wu Sheng. Even their own sect didn't have such a powerhouse. Shi Jingxian said with surprise, could it be that Jun Patriarch's cultivation has already reached half-step Wu Sheng? Ha! Was this woman purposely probing him? That's not true. Jun Changshao said, my sect of all times has an inheritance from ancient times and has a unique supernatural ability. Jun relied on such a method to defeat a Grand Elder of Extreme Cold Palace. Now that everyone in the martial world was talking about this, he might as well go with the flow and use this to explain why he had suddenly become so strong. Shi Jingxian smiled and said, Jun Patriarch has an inheritance from ancient times. How unexpected. Palace Master Shi, let's get down to business. Jun Changshao said, when are we leaving for the southern barren state? He had originally planned to go out and have some fun. Now that a rare treasure had appeared, he naturally wanted to go and have a look. Who knows, he might be able to find a large number of martial arts resources. To be honest, rare treasures were not very attractive to Jun Patriarch. After all the items in the store were heaven-defying rare treasures. The main thing was that he lacked martial arts resources. For example, the materials needed for chi-gathering pills, spirit-tempering pills, and martial king pills could not be bought in the store. Jun Patriarch, don't you want to rest? No need. Alright then, we can leave now. On the martial arts field of Miaohua Palace, a few sturdy horses were led over by a disciple. Jun Patriarch. Shi Jingxian walked out and smiled. I specially spent a high price to purchase several thousand-mile Windchaser horses. Their speed is not inferior to your sect's hurricane wolves. Jun Changshao said, Palace Master Shi plans to ride them to the southern barren state. Shi Jingxian said. Jun Changshao said, that's too slow. He looked at Xiao Moxian and ordered, transform into your true form and bring Palace Master Shi to the southern barren state. Xiao Moxian nodded and landed in the center of the martial arts field. Her body was immediately covered in flowing light and she transformed into the true form of the Demon Ridge Black Hawk. Puchi! Puchi! Two pairs of black wings unfolded and a massive body appeared in front of everyone. Hiss hiss hiss, several thousand-mile wind-chaser horses cried out in shock. Zhangsun Fanghua and Leng Xingyue's eyes widened. Such a cute little girl suddenly transformed into a massive eagle beast. This was simply too shocking. Palace Master Shi. Jun Changshao said, please go. This, Shi Jingxian considered for a moment and landed on the back of the Demon Ridge Black Hawk. Zhangsun Fanghua, Leng Xingyue, and the other elders also wanted to jump on but were stopped by Jun Changshao. Sorry, my contract beasts only carry noble palace masters. You can ride the 1,000-mile wind-chaser horses to the southern barren state. Take off. Poochie. Poochie. The Demon Ridge Black Hawk suddenly flapped its wings. After rolling up dust, it instantly flew into the sky and then flew towards the south at an extremely fast speed. Damn it! Zhangsun Fanghua said, is this guy deliberately leaving us behind? How can Palace Master be alone with him? Let's go, let's chase. The elders all rode the 1,000-mile wind-chaser horses to chase, but compared to the flying spirit beasts, they were really slow. Poochie. Poochie. In a moment, the Demon Ridge Black Hawk had flown far away. Shi Jingxuan's black hair fluttered in the wind and her little face gradually turned red. The elders didn't follow and she was alone with Jun Patriarch. This made her very nervous and uneasy. What should I do, what should I do? Shi Jingxuan's heart beat faster and she didn't know what to do. Palace Master Shi, sit tight. Jun Changshao instantly activated the armed wings and flew out, saying, I'll go first. Whoosh, in an instant, he disappeared without a trace. If Elder Wei was present, he would definitely cover his head and break down. Patriarch, you're really hopeless. Chapter 627. Leaving all the elders of Miaohua Palace behind and swimming in the endless sky with Shi Jingxian. How poetic was that? But Jun Patriarch activated his armed wings and flew away first. Spending time alone with a girl was a great opportunity to cultivate feelings, and he wasted it just like that. I really want to kill him and be the protagonist. Shi Jingxian, who was originally nervous and apprehensive, did not expect that Sect Master Jun would leave first. Her pretty face was filled with confusion and a little bit of disappointment. Does he hate me? So, I don't want to stay any longer. Swoosh! At this moment, Jun Changshao flew back. Figured it out? Sure enough, there was still a chance to salvage the situation. Shi Jingxian noticed that he was back, and a bright smile appeared on her face. Palace Master Shi. Jun Changshao said, will we reach the southern barren state if we head all the way south? Yes, Shi Jingxian said. Swoosh, Jun Changshao sped up again. Before leaving, he didn't forget to remind the Black Hawk of the Demon Ridge, girl, Palace Master Shi is here. Be careful, don't fly so fast. I'll fly faster. Let the contract beast fly slower. Where's my saber? Where's my saber? In the Falling Star continent, the two most mysterious states were the southern barren state and the northern desert state, because most of the area was covered by wasteland and desert. The environment of the two states was harsh, and the population was very small. At this moment, at the border of the southern barren state, a large number of martial artists were rushing. Some were alone, some were in groups, and occasionally, martial king-level powerhouses could be seen. They came from all over the world, and the place they were heading to was the Barren Land. The Barren Land was a barren land that stretched for tens of thousands of miles, and no one set foot there all year round. Half a month ago. Suddenly, a stream of light rose from the Barren Land, penetrating heaven and earth, and lasted for a few days before gradually dissipating. A vision rose, and a supreme treasure appeared. This was an eternal law not only in the Falling Star continent, but also in all fantasy systems. Therefore, all the forces of the Falling Star continent sent powerhouses over. Since ancient times, countless supreme treasures appeared, and every time they appeared, it would set off a bloody storm. Swoosh, a stream of light flew over from the sky. Wu Huang! Everyone exclaimed. Who would have thought that the appearance of the rare treasure in the southern barren state would alert the experts at the level of Wu Huang? 500 years ago, a peerless sword was unearthed in the northern desert state, which shocked many people in Wu Huang. In the end, they fought for 7 days in the northern desert abyss before giving up. I've heard about this. Who took the treasure in the end? I heard that the wandering sword emperor took it away. Even the emperor of the sword Dao was alarmed. That peerless sword must be extraordinary. Everyone discussed as they hurried along. However, there was also a martial king who was rather puzzled. Strange, this Wu Huang used his flying ability, but why didn't he reveal the aura of Wu Huang's level? Yeah! The other martial artists were also puzzled. Logically speaking, Wu Huang should have been able to feel the ripples of power in the air when he used his flying ability and unleashed his full cultivation. At this moment, the stream of light that was flying past suddenly stopped. Gradually, a valiant-looking young man with a pair of wings that seemed to be forged from steel appeared. Many martial artists were dumbfounded. That guy has wings. Is he a human or a flying spirit beast? He's flying too fast. Jun Changshao stood in the sky and muttered, "Let's wait for Palace Master Shi first." TSK, TSK. He lowered his head and looked at the dumbfounded martial artists below. The appearance of this rare treasure has shocked many people. Whoosh! Right at this moment, a ray of light flew over from the sky and stopped by his side. It's Wu Huang again! Everyone exclaimed. The stream of light gradually dissipated, and a white-haired old man appeared. He cupped his hands and said, Young sir, you look a little unfamiliar. May I know which sect you are from?" He originally wanted to call him young friend, but he thought that since this person could fly and had a pair of strange wings on his back, he might not be younger than him. In this world, there were eccentric experts who liked to pretend to be young to harm naive girls. Sect of all times. Jun Changshao said, Jun Changshao. Oh? The old man was surprised. Are you the patriarch of the sect of all times? He was indeed famous. Just by saying his name, Wu Huang could immediately guess his identity. That's right. Jun Changshao said. The old man smiled and said, Jun Patriarch is also here for the rare treasure? Yes. Jun Changshao replied, but his eyes were still looking behind him. He thought to himself, why isn't he here yet? Bah! He still has the nerve to say that. The old man lowered his voice and said, Jun Patriarch, the appearance of the rare treasure in the southern barren state has shocked many major sections. Are you interested in joining forces? He did not belong to any sect. He was an itinerant martial artist who wandered the continent all year round. Although his personal strength was not bad, compared to the major sects, it was naturally difficult for two fists to fight against many fists. Not interested. Jun Changshao decisively refused. Those who took the initiative to join forces with him usually had ulterior motives. He was not interested in playing tricks with them. It was better to do it alone. Okay. The old man cupped his hands and said, I'll take my leave first. Jun Changshao continued to wait in the sky. It was not until an hour later that the Demon Ridge Black Eagle slowly flew over with Shi Jingxian on its back. Oh my god! The martial artists below were shocked. Such a big eagle beast. Swoosh! Jun Changshao landed on the eagle's back and said, Palace Master Shi, do you still want to wait for the elders of your Miaohua Palace? No need. Shi Jingxian said, they should take a long time to come. Let's go to the barren land first. Okay. Jun Changshao did not fly first this time. He stood on the back of the Demon Ridge Black Eagle and flew to the barren land at the fastest speed. In the barren land, not a single blade of grass grew. From afar, it looked like a lifeless yellow desert. The heaven and earth attributes here were abnormally thin. The air was not only dry but also filled with a chill. Poochie, Poochie. The Demon Ridge Black Eagle flapped its wings and flew slowly in the sky. Although it was rare for Jun Changshao and Shi Jingxian to be alone together, neither of them spoke to each other. The atmosphere was slightly awkward. If it were the love expert Elder Wei, he would have already talked about romance with the girl. Therefore, some people were very good at other things but not so good at relationships. For example, our Jun Gu Sheng. Jun Patriarch. After a while, Shi Jingxian said, "It is said that 10,000 years ago, there was an earth-devouring sacred beast in the southern barren state that lived by absorbing heaven and earth attributes." Sacred beast? Jun Changshao was surprised. This level was comparable to a martial emperor. Shi Jingxian continued, "Later, an expert passed by and killed this beast. Hot blood spilled for tens of thousands of miles, causing the land to be barren, resulting in today's barren land." I see. Jun Changshao held his chin and said, "To be able to kill a sacred beast, the strength of that expert must be very terrifying." Rumble. At this moment, the flying demon Ridge Black Eagle slammed into the invisible enchantment and was immediately bounced back. Then, its body fell down at an extremely fast speed. The sudden turn of events caught Shi Jingxian off guard, and she was instantly flung out. Not good. Jun Changshao hurriedly tapped his right foot and rushed over while losing his balance. He caught the falling Shi Jingxian in his arms and then landed smoothly on the ground. Boom! The demon Ridge Black Eagle fell to the ground, rolling up dust. Cough cough. Xiao Moxian transformed into her human form. She rubbed her forehead and said, "Master, there is a spell here that restricts my flight." Putting down Shi Jingxian, Jun Changshao said, "Are you okay?" "Little girl." "I'm fine." Xiao Moxian said. "Oh." Jun Changshao looked up at the looming enchantment in the sky and said in a bad mood, "Who is so bored to lay down an array formation enchantment in the barren land?" Chapter 628. In the sky, a huge mirror-like barrier loomed. It was impossible to fly through it directly. Jun Changshao was unhappy. He released his spiritual sense into the array and tried to crack it. However, as soon as he touched it, he felt as if his soul had been attacked. He hurriedly retracted it. The level of this array was a little high. "Palace Master Shi." Jun Changshao said, "Let's walk." Okay." Shi Jingxian said softly, but her face was already red. She lost her balance and fell into Jun Changshao's arms. Although they separated quickly after landing, the strange feeling brought by the contact between a man and a woman would not dissipate easily. Jun Patriarch, on the way, Shi Jingxian said weakly, "There's no one else nearby, right?" "No." Jun Changshao said, "It's empty." That's good, that's good." Shi Jingxian muttered in her heart, especially when she thought of the contact with him just now. Her face suddenly felt hot again. She had lived in Miaohua Palace since she was young and had only faced senior sisters and junior sisters. Naturally, she had never had intimate physical contact with a man. "Palace Master Shi, are you okay?" Jun Changshao saw that her expression was strange. She finally fucking cared. I'm fine." Shi Jingxian hurriedly lowered her head. Jun Changshao raised his head and looked at the array above. He murmured, "There should be very few people in this barren land. How can there be an array here?" Shi Jingxian said, "Maybe it's set up by a big sect that came first to prevent other powerhouses from easily arriving at the area where the treasure is born." "Ha!" Jun Changshao sneered and said, "Natural treasures are obtained by fate. This method is really shameless." Although that was the case. Who wouldn't want to take the good things for themselves and wait for others to snatch them from them? The two people and one beast walked in the barren land. After walking for about 10 minutes, a huge pit appeared in their field of vision. It was like a crater left behind by a meteorite impact. "Palace Master Shi." Jun Changshao said, "There is a very, very big pit. Could it be the place where the treasure was born?" Shi Jingxian shook her head and said, "This should have been left behind by that expert and the devouring earth saint beast 10,000 years ago. It can't be." Jun Changshao asked in surprise, it can cause so much damage? The system said, when two Emperor-level powerhouses fight, it's already good enough that they didn't blast the space until it couldn't heal. Impressive, impressive. Jun Changshao thought to himself, if I can become a martial emperor, who would I be afraid of in this world? After bypassing the deep pit of the Aurora, they continued to move forward. Gradually, rows of mountain-like strange stone forests appeared. Someone's here. Jun Changshao released his spiritual senses and noticed that Shi had gathered many martial artists. This should be the place where the supreme treasure appeared. As expected. Just as they approached the strange stone forest, they heard a martial artist say in a low voice, "Big brother, isn't this the area of light? Why isn't there anything? Even the experts of the big sects who came first don't know. If you ask me, who should I ask?" The one called Big Brother said impatiently. There were 2,000 to 3,000 martial artists standing on the periphery. Their cultivation wasn't too high, but the deeper they went, the higher the level. Everyone. In the innermost empty area, an old man in a fiery red robe said, "I'm afraid we've come in vain. There is no supreme treasure here." The voice contains a strong fire-type aura. Shi Jingxian whispered, "It should be an elder of the Raging Flame Holy Sect." A second-rate sect? A sect with the name of saint must be a first-rate or second-rate sect. In the future, when the sect of all times reaches this level, they can also use the name Ancient Sacred Sect. Although the old man who spoke was an elder of the Raging Flame Holy Sect, Jun Changshao didn't take him seriously, because the flame aura he emitted was pitifully weak. With the strongest body of sacred flame on the continent, he was qualified to look down on a fire-type Wu Huang. Elderly, someone said, with such a big commotion, why isn't there any supreme treasure? Could it be that someone else got it first? According to the martial artists of the Southern Barren State, the experts of the Raging Flame Holy Sect and other sects rushed over before the phenomenon ended. No one should have taken it away, right? That's strange. The martial artists of the various forces were puzzled. Jun Changshao walked in with Shi Jingxian. "Young friend." A martial artist whispered, "There are all big shots inside. You can't just go in casually." Jun Changshao smiled and continued forward. The martial artist shook his head and said, "Why won't he listen?" He. The martial artist next to him said, "Brother Zhang, there are many people in this world who don't know their own strength." Everyone was thinking about the supreme treasure, so no one paid attention to Jun Changshao who walked in. Jun Patriarch stopped and glanced at the dozens of martial artists present. He found that 6 of them were at the level of Wu Huang, and the rest were all martial kings. No wonder the outsiders didn't dare to come in. They couldn't afford to offend experts of this level. Jun Patriarch. The old man who wanted to join forces with him greeted with a smile. Everyone looked over, and there was a trace of undetectable contempt in their eyes. Such a young guy was actually a patriarch. He probably wasn't from a famous sect. Elder Gu. A Wu Huang said, "You know this person?" Elder Gu said with a smile, "Not only do I know him, you must have heard of him too." "Oh?" Someone asked curiously, "Who is he?" Elder Gu said with a smile, "This is the patriarch of the sect of all times, who recently became famous in the Jianghu." "What? He is Jun Changshao?" Everyone's eyes were filled with astonishment. The surrounding martial artists all widened their eyes. The martial artist surnamed Zhang, who had advised Jun Changshao not to go in, also had a look of disbelief in his eyes. No wonder he ignored him. It turned out that he was the patriarch of the sect of all times, who had recently become famous. The martial artist who said overestimated himself lowered his head in shame. As long as they hadn't just come out of seclusion, any martial cultivator with a slight realm would have heard of the sect of all times, which was a new top 3 sect. "I heard that the patriarch of the sect of all times is the Sword and Martial Kings." A Wu Huang examined Jun Changshao and questioned, "Why don't I feel any aura coming from him?" Jun Changshao didn't explain. He looked at the empty space not far away. There was a small pit there, about 5 feet deep. The barren land was full of potholes. However, this small pit contained a strange aura, which made him feel that it was definitely not ordinary. June Patriarch. Elder Gu transmitted his voice, "You are looking at the place where the strange phenomenon occurred." "Oh?" June Changshao said, "Why isn't there anything?" "I don't know," Elder Gu said. Ding! Side quest triggered. A sudden notification sounded in his ears. June Changshao opened the system panel. The new side quest was "The Forbidden Area is about to open. Host, please enter within 30 minutes. The Forbidden Area is about to open?" What did that mean? Could it be, there was no treasure here, but a hidden forbidden area that couldn't be revealed because it wasn't time yet? The system was speechless. The side quest is a spoiler. Chapter 629. The appearance of the side task made June Changshao guess that there might not be any treasure here, but some kind of forbidden area. However, after waiting for another hour, there was still no movement. "Everyone," the elder of the Burning Flame Holy Sect said, "let's disperse." He and the other experts had arrived first and had been waiting here for 7 or 8 days. According to the previous pattern, as long as there was a strange phenomenon, the treasure would definitely appear. It would not take so long. "Let's go, let's go." Many martial artists in the periphery began to evacuate. These people knew that they would not be able to get anything when the experts of the major sects came. They were just here to watch the show. Now that they did not see any treasure, they could only return in disappointment. "Let's go. Let's go. Just leave me and Palace Master Shi behind." Just as June Changshao was thinking, a Wu Huang said in surprise, "Look, there is movement in the pit." Whoosh! 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 The experts who were about to leave all looked back and saw that the small pit, which was originally the size of a fist, was spreading outwards. It seemed that someone had deliberately made it bigger. The strange thing was, the pit was gradually getting bigger and the soil disappeared into thin air. Gradually, the small pit extended outwards infinitely and finally formed an entrance that looked like a cave. The corner of June Changshao's mouth twitched. It seemed that this should be the entrance to the forbidden area. But couldn't you wait for them to leave before coming out? Whoosh, whoosh, a gust of wind whistled, blowing up the dust in the air. Many martial artists subconsciously raised their arms to block the wind and sand. Some even closed their eyes. 3,000 years. It's time for the tomb that I guard to see the light of day again. Since you are gathered here, you are fated. Whether you can get the treasure in the tomb depends on your luck. A deep and old voice suddenly sounded in the strange stone forest. The expressions of several Wu Huang changed drastically. The sudden voice contained a special force that could reach the soul and bring indescribable shock. June Changshao also had the same feeling. As if the voice came from the depths of the starry sky, it was desolate and empty. Tomb. Could it be that the entrance was connected to an underground tomb? Oh my God! Are you asking me to rob a tomb? But I don't know how to do it. Sun Longwan looked at the coiled mountain. Each layer of coils was a heavy pass. June Patriarch thought of a common phrase in feng shui and hurriedly looked around. He found that this was a strange stone forest. If it was a mountain, then there were too many. So there is no treasure here, but a tomb. The elder of the Burning Flame Holy Sect suddenly realized. Whose tomb? This was a very good question, and everyone was dumbfounded. Obviously, no one knew. Just now, the voice mentioned 3,000 years, which meant that the tomb had existed for a very long time. Perhaps it was the tomb of some powerful ancestor. There must be many rare treasures hidden inside. The eyes of the experts present were burning with desire. Seeing this, June Changshao thought helplessly, it's impossible for me to go in alone. Go! Wu Huang said, let's go in first. Shwa! As soon as he finished speaking, he jumped into the widening hole. Bang! However, just as he was about to enter, he seemed to have hit a wall and was violently bounced back. The experts who were in a hurry to catch up immediately stopped when they saw this. Wang! At this moment, a mirror-like flowing light boundary appeared above the hole. Array? It's exactly the same as the one outside that forbids flying. Hearing what they said, Jun Changshao suddenly realized that the array that prevented the contract beasts from flying was not set up by the experts of these sects. Who set it up? The system said, maybe it was set up by the tomb keeper? The voice just now said, the tomb that I am guarding should also see the light of day again, which meant that he was the tomb keeper. Wu Huang, who was bounced back, stabilized himself awkwardly and spat out a mouthful of blood. The other experts' mouths twitched slightly. Brother, how much strength did you use to jump down and spit out blood on the spot? Wu Huang was also depressed. He was just falling down naturally, but he seemed to have hit some kind of energy. Not only was he bounced back, but his meridians were also injured. Wu Huang guessed, it should be some kind of restriction. We can't touch it casually. Then how do we get in? Wait. That person said, wait for the boundary to disappear. Jun Changshao didn't believe him. After the boundary appeared, the side task would start a 30-minute countdown, which meant that they had to enter the tomb within the specified time. Everyone. The elder of the Burning Flame Holy Sect said, just now, the desolate voice said that there are treasures in the tomb, but it depends on luck. I think this boundary might be a test to see if we have the luck to enter. He was worried that there would be danger in the hole, so it was better to let others go first. That makes sense. Old Gu agreed. After a short consideration, the others agreed with the elder's speculation. Let me try. A martial emperor walked out, leaped up, and descended into the cave. Bang! Just like the previous one, he was bounced back and fell on the ground awkwardly. Luckily, he was quite strong. Only his meridians were damaged, but he didn't spit out blood on the spot. Let me try. Whoosh! Bang! He was bounced back again. Then, Old Gu and the other Wu Huang, even the martial king, were all bounced back. It seemed that none of them had the luck. Damn it! The elder of the Burning Flame Holy Sect said impatiently, how should we go in? Jun Patriarch. Old Gu said, why don't you try? This, Jun Changshao said, Palace Master Shi, why don't you try with Jun? If he had the good fortune to integrate into the boundary, he definitely couldn't leave her here alone. Old Gu and the others looked at Shi Jingxian, all secretly guessing. Could this be Jun Patriarch's cultivation companion or confidant? In their opinion, a young and promising patriarch like Jun Changshao must have more than one confidant. Actually. Not a single one. This woman looks a little familiar. A martial king suddenly remembered and said, she is the palace master of Miaohua Palace. Miaohua Palace? The palace master who was known as a remarkable woman. Old Gu said with a smile, Jun Patriarch and the palace master of Miaohua Palace are both in charge of a sect at such a young age. They are a perfect match. Everyone agreed with his words. The man was in high spirits, and the woman was beautiful. Moreover, they were both sect leaders. They were simply a match made in heaven. Shi Jingxian lowered her head in embarrassment. Let's go. Jun Changshao didn't care if she agreed or not. He grabbed her soft little hand. Shi Jingxuan's little face turned even redder. She was about to shake him off subconsciously when she felt her body floating. Under everyone's gaze, the two of them flew toward the cave. Whoosh! They touched the boundary and instantly merged with it. They're in. They're in. Everyone exclaimed in unison. Fated to meet each other from 1,000 miles away, the three smiles are all in vain. A desolate and heavy voice sounded, the boundary of the tomb has been broken by a pair of fated people. You can enter on your own. Whoosh! As soon as the voice fell, the boundary of the cave disappeared. Let's go. After a short moment of shock, Old Gu and the other experts rushed over as if they were in a hurry to be reincarnated. Chapter 630. When Jun Changshao brought Shi Jingxian into the cave, he realized that he had this good fortune. Very good, very good. The airdrop boxes inside are all mine. All the experts outside, you're destined to end up empty-handed. At that moment, June Patriarch wanted to imitate Elder Zhen and let out a strange laughter to express his joy. However, as soon as he stabilized his body, he heard a desolate sound outside. No way. When Shi Jingxian and I came in, they can enter by themselves? Do they have to be so deceptive? Time didn't allow June Patriarch to think too much. Realizing that there was a dark tunnel in front of him, he hurriedly pulled Shi Jingxian and walked in. The two of them never let go of each other. This wasn't because June Patriarch suddenly became enlightened, but because he had an eye disease. If he didn't hold her hand in this dark environment, what if he bumped into something? Feeling the temperature and strange feeling from his palm, Shi Jingxuan's whole face was boiling hot. However, she also knew that they were in a strange place, so she didn't struggle and let him lead her. Shwa! Shwa! As the two walked along the tunnel, the elders of the Raging Flame Holy Sect, Elder Gu, and the others had already rushed in. Those martial artists on the periphery also followed. Although they knew that they couldn't get a share of the pie among the many sect masters, since it was a tomb from 3,000 years ago, they must go and see it. No one cared whether there was danger inside, because curiosity won over reason. For a time, the 2,000 to 3,000 martial artists surrounding the strange stone forest all went in. It wasn't hard to imagine that if there were really some rare treasures inside, it would definitely make many people go crazy. Master went in. Xiao Moxian sat on a boulder in the distance and pouted, "Leaving me alone, it's so boring." Whoosh! The cold wind kept blowing in the dark tunnel, giving people a feeling of being in hell. The darkness here couldn't disturb Shi Jingxian because she was always accompanied by darkness. But feeling the cold, she asked, "June Patriarch, where are we?" "A very deep tunnel." June Changshao said. Shi Jingxian said, "Could there be a trap?" "I hope not." June Changshao said as he activated the spirit armor and armed himself. The two walked hundreds of steps in the tunnel and then entered a relatively spacious stone cave. The originally dark environment gradually lit up. There were stone beds, stone stools, and stone cabinets here, as if someone had lived here before. June Changshao led Shi Jingxian to the front of the stone cabinets. There were many spotless scrolls on them, and they were all ancient books related to medicine. Could it be that the owner of the tomb was an expert in Qi Huang? "Palace Master?" June Changshao asked this. Shi Jingxian remained silent for a while. Then, she said, "There seem to be many of them. For example, the dragon-patterned martial sage, the stubborn Lingyun sword sage, and the multifaceted medical sage, who treats illnesses with ease." The people she listed were all top powerhouses from 3,000 years ago. They were also the legends of that era. Some would ask, why are they all saints? Because of the War of the Emperors 10,000 years ago, after the continent was torn apart, only 9 people could step into the emperor level. Many experts speculated that the order of heaven and earth was destroyed and could not accommodate more experts, so they set up restrictions. The 9 great martial emperors were supreme existences, but they did not touch the secular world. Only their legends were passed down on the continent, and no one was lucky enough to see them in person. If the martial emperors did not appear, Wu Sheng was naturally the top expert in the falling star continent. Although they had a very long lifespan, they were always comprehending, so that they could peek into the secrets of heaven and become the 10th martial emperor. Unfortunately, how many martial emperors struggled to survive in despair and died in despair? In the end, it was nothing but an illusion. The medical saint of all faces? June Changshao asked, "Where is he?" Shi Jingxian shook her head. "He has disappeared for a long time. No one knows where he went." June Changshao held his chin and guessed, "There are many books related to medicine on the stone shelf. Could it be that the medical saint of all faces is buried there?" "Impossible." Shi Jingxian said, "Senior medical saint's medical skills are superb. How could he die?" She, who suffered from an eye disease, had sent people to find the medical saint of all faces. After all, he might be the only one who could treat her eye disease. If he died, it was equivalent to completely losing hope. Jun Changshao said, "I'm just guessing." Jun Patriarch. Shi Jingxian said, "What are the names of these books?" "Let me see." Jun Changshao did not dare to take them with his hands. Instead, he locked them with his spiritual sense and said, "One is called Miscellaneous Classics of 100 Schools, one is called Great Classic of Meridians, and one is called Qi Huang Internal Classic." Shi Jingxuan's heart sank. She said, "These are all medical books written by senior medical saint." Could it be? At this point, her face gradually became depressed. She said, "Is he really dead?" Jun Patriarch hurriedly said, "Palace Master Shi, please don't think too much. Maybe these are just copies of senior medical saints' works. Someone used them as burial objects." He clearly remembered that once Shi Jingxian fell into depression, she would immediately go berserk. Shi Jingxian smiled brightly. "I think so too." Jun Changshao heaved a sigh of relief and thought to himself, Phew. Jun Patriarch. Shi Jingxian said, "Senior medical saints' medical works are very rare nowadays. Why don't you take them away?" "That's what I was thinking." Jun Changshao enveloped the book with his spiritual sense and kept it in his spatial ring. At the same time, he was on guard. In the end, no traps were triggered. So simple. Jun Changshao was rather stunned. In his opinion, such a strange tomb should be filled with traps. If he took the book away, it might be triggered. "Let's go." Jun Changshao did not stay in the cave abode for long. He led Shi Jingxian into another tunnel in the east. Then, they walked all the way and came to an even wider cave. The ground here was not made of stone but of mud. It was rather soft as if it had just been plowed. A herb garden? Jun Changshao thought to himself. There was a high platform in the center of the cave. There were many baskets on it. When he went closer to take a look, he saw that they were all spatial rings. Baskets of this size were usually used to store herbs. Now that they were used to store spatial rings, it was really strange. Jun Changshao carefully took one and infused his spiritual sense into it. As a result, he immediately opened his mouth. This medium-sized spatial ring was filled with all kinds of herb seeds. There were at least 100,000 to 200,000 of them. Whoosh! He hurriedly checked the other ones. They were also filled with herb seeds. One spatial ring was worth 100,000 herb seeds. There were more than 500 spatial rings in the baskets. Oh my god! Jun Changshao was so shocked that he blurted out his Shandong dialect. "I'm going to be rich." Chapter 631. 4 to 500 space rings, each containing 100,000 medicinal herb seeds. No. Jun Patriarch was not good at math. Who could help him calculate? The quality of the medicinal herbs in the space rings was very good. Their levels were definitely not low. Many of them could be planted and refined into elixirs. Jun Changshao was worried about how to get more medicinal herbs. Now that he had entered the tomb, he suddenly felt like he was in a dream. Wait a minute. Could there be some kind of illusion here? Whatever he thought, it would appear. Jun Changshao pinched his face hard. It was very painful, but the scene in front of him was still there. It was hard for him to be sure whether this was real or not. Forget it. Let's take it first. Just as he was about to take away all the space rings, a cold wind suddenly blew in his ear. It was as if someone was standing behind him and blowing. Jun Changshao turned his head. A distorted face appeared in his vision. A special mist was coming out of the nose. The eyes were empty and lifeless. A zombie? Or a ghost? Fuck. Boom, thump, thump, thump. The person with disheveled hair who was close to him was blasted away. Jun Changshao held Shi Jingxuan's hand and hurriedly retreated. Suddenly, a zombie-like guy appeared behind him. It was completely undetectable with spiritual thoughts. Even if he had watched a lot of horror movies, he still felt creeped out. Crack, crack, crack. The soft soil cracked. Pairs of withered hands stretched out. Then, people with disheveled clothes and disheveled hair crawled out. The scene was like countless zombies crawling out of a graveyard. He had encountered a similar situation in the Demon Ridge Valley. But at least they were dire beasts. These were real human corpses. Thump, thump, thump. One by one, the corpses wobbled over with their hands hanging down. Jun Changshao stood in front of Shi Jingxian and said, "Palace Master Shi, don't be afraid. I'm here." They couldn't see at all. What was there to be afraid of? Swoosh! A cold wind came from behind. A corpse attacked with a ferocious look. Boom! Jun Changshao punched it and only blasted it away. His chest was not damaged at all. His defense is so strong. The corpse attacked again as if it could not feel pain at all. Clang with a flash of light, the cold radiant sword was unsheathed. Suddenly, a sword flower appeared and mercilessly sliced towards the attacking corpse. Ding! 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 When the sword chi landed on his body, it was as if it had hit an iron plate. Immediately, a crisp sound rang out, and the only thing missing was sparks. Jun Changxiao's mouth twitched. Is this a human or a rock? Shwa! Shwa! At this moment, more corpses rushed over from both sides. Jun Changshao picked up Shi Jingxian without any hesitation and used cloud-treading steps to go around them. After placing her in a safe area, his hands were covered in blazing flames as he coldly said, "Let's see how much resistance you guys have." Whoosh! Scorching flames erupted and instantly condensed into flaming fists that blasted towards the two corpses. Bang! Bang! The sound of an explosion was heard. The two corpses were sent flying. Their clothes were burnt, but their exposed skin was only charred black. They did not suffer any fatal injuries. Sure, sure. Jun Changshao clenched his fists and immediately activated the Red Star Absolute Flame. Then, he condensed a fist seal and blasted it out. Bang! Not only did this attack carry powerful spiritual energy, but it also contained the explosive power of fire. It hit one of the corpses and directly pierced through its chest. Jun Changshao smiled in satisfaction. However, his smile soon stiffened because the corpse could still stand up after being pierced through. Jun Patriarch broke down. Unkillable cockroaches. Nonsense. The system said, they are already dead. How can they die? Good, good. Jun Changshao said coldly, then I'll burn them to ashes. Shwa! He took a step forward and his arms were covered in blazing flames. Then, he swung his arms forcefully and instantly enveloped the corpses to burn them to ashes. The Red Star Absolute Flame was the most explosive among all the divine-grade fire seeds. Once it touched the body, the burning power it formed was extremely strong. The corpses were engulfed by the flames. Their hard skin and flesh gradually melted until they turned into ashes. No matter how strong the body was, it could not withstand the burning of a divine-grade fire. Shwa! Shwa! At the same time, dozens of corpses rushed over from 3 other directions. All of you, disappear. Whoosh! Whoosh! The Red Star Absolute Flame exploded. More than half of the cave was filled with flames as if it had turned into a sea of fire. This was the first time Jun Changshao had used his strongest flame. The power was so strong that even Shi Jingxian behind him was shocked. Although she could not see the spectacular scene with her eyes, she could tell from the violent fire aura that whether in strength or precision, it was much stronger than the elders of the Burning Flame Holy Sect. Crack! Crack! Under the burning flames, the sound of burning flesh could be heard. Corpses after corpses were turned into ashes by the sea of fire. Shwa! The flames retracted. More than 40 corpses nearby were all burned to ashes. The red star absolute flame was so terrifying. Jun Changshao hurriedly put away all the space rings and pulled Shi Jingxian to the next entrance. He thought to himself, first it was medical skills, and now it's the herb seeds. Maybe this tomb is really related to the medical saint. The system said, I just checked the history books. According to them, the medical saint last appeared in the southern barren state. This guy had been collecting information about the continent. Of course, he would not miss any historical documents. Is that so? The information was very important. It made Jun Changshao determine that even if the owner of this tomb was not the medical saint, it must be related to him. Of course. He could not tell Shi Jingxian. If she was upset, there would be trouble. Also, the system said, according to the limited records, the medical saint came to the southern barren state to treat his wife who was seriously ill. Jun Changshao was stunned. Isn't he the medical saint? He can't even treat his wife's illness. The system said, there is no way to know. Jun Changshao did not ask any more questions. He took Shi Jingxian into the tunnel and went deeper. As soon as he left, the experts of various sects poured in from the tunnel behind. They were all in a mess. Their clothes were torn in many places. It seemed that they had gone through a fierce battle. Huff! Huff! Everyone stopped and gasped for breath. Damn it! The elder of the Burning Flame Holy Sect said angrily, why are there so many rock-hard corpses in this tomb? It was not hard to hear. They had also encountered corpses with extremely strong bodies. However, why did Jun Changshao not encounter any corpses when he came from the path just now? It was a long story. In short, although Jun Changshao and them came from the entrance of the tunnel, because there was some kind of restriction inside, they did not take the same path. Otherwise, they would have caught up with each other and would not have been so far away. The area that Elder Gu and the others entered also had many ancient medical books. Everyone mistook them for martial arts manuals and fought over them. As they fought over them, a group of corpses appeared. They had no choice but to work together and fight against them. After a lot of effort, they defeated them and came to this kind of herb garden-like cave. The elder of the Burning Flame Holy Sect suddenly frowned and said, there is an extremely strong flame aura here. As a fire element cultivator, Wu Huang had a very strong perception of the same element. As he gradually probed and analyzed, he was shocked and said in surprise, a fire element martial cultivator must have a better understanding of fire than me. Who was it? The elder of the Burning Flame Holy Sect suddenly thought of Jun Changshao. After all, he and the palace master of Miaohua Palace came in first. It was rumored that this person was also a fire element martial cultivator, but he was only at the king stage. Why was his understanding of fire stronger than his? Strange. Elder Gu frowned and said, why is there nothing here? It would be strange if there was something left in the place that Jun Patriarch came to. Chapter 632. Jun Changshao led Shi Jingxian into another cave residence. The ceiling was inlaid with something similar to a luminous pearl, illuminating the interior. This place did not look like a man-made cave residence, but more like a palace. There were 8 pillars supporting it, carved with lifelike birds and beasts. It was grand, but also gloomy. Jun Changshao walked over carefully and soon arrived at the central area. There was a stone platform that was 10 feet high, and 2 stone coffins were placed on it. Perhaps they were ancient, but they exuded a desolate aura. It's not a person buried here. Jun Changshao was stunned. Just as he was about to walk up, he suddenly heard a cough. He hurriedly turned around and saw a hunchback old man walking out of the darkness where the light could not reach. His hair was disheveled, and he was as thin as firewood. His face was pale, and if not for the vitality in his eyes, it would be easy to think that he was another corpse. Who are you? Jun Changshao asked cautiously. The old man laughed dryly and said, little child, you came to the tomb I am guarding. I should be the one asking you this question. His voice was cold and eerie, like a ghost hiding in hell. Jun Changshao could hear that the voice was similar to the one that sounded outside, except that it lacked a sense of heaviness and desolation. "You are the tomb keeper here?" "Yes." The old man looked at Shi Jingxian and said, "You can break the realm of love, so you are qualified to pay respects to my master." Jun Changshao asked, "Whose tomb is this?" "The medical saint of all faces and his wife." The old man seemed to say it casually, but there was a trace of pain in his eyes. Shi Jingxian, who was standing at the back, trembled slightly and said dejectedly, "So the medical saint has really passed away." She had sought out all the famous doctors in the world, but none of them could cure her eye disease. The All Faces medical sage was her only hope. Now that he was dead, it was undoubtedly a heavy blow. Jun Changshao said, "Palace Master Shi, as long as you and I are still alive, there must be hope. Don't give up easily." At this time, he wanted to throw out all the inspirational chicken soup stories. But it was too late. The death of the medical saint of all faces was a huge blow to Shi Jingxian. Her entire state of mind was completely shrouded in despair. Huff huff, in an instant, a burst of violent energy burst out. "It's over." Jun Changshao's mouth twitched. Shi Jingxian, who was standing behind him, had her black hair fluttering in the wind. Her empty eyes instantly turned cold and stern. "Shua!" Jun Patriarch suddenly turned around and grabbed her wrist, wanting to seal her meridians. Bang! However, Shi Jingxuan's body seemed to contain some kind of power. When she came into contact with it, she was bounced back as if she had been struck by lightning. "Eh!" The old man said in surprise, "This girl is sick." Jun Changshao immediately collapsed. "Grandpa, you're not sick. This is a problem with your personality." "Palace Master Shi, die!" Shi Jingxian shouted coldly. Then, she stretched out her palm and gathered cultivation comparable to a peak martial king. Jun Changshao easily caught it with one hand and tried to seal her meridians again. In the end, he was bounced back by some kind of power. He had no choice but to grab her wrist and said, "Palace Master Shi, sorry for the offense." Smack! He waved his hand, broke the protective spiritual energy, and hit the back of her head. Because he used a lot of strength, Shi Jingxuan's body went limp. She directly collapsed in Jun Changshao's arms and fainted. Fortunately, Jun Patriarch was strong. Otherwise, he would not have been able to subdue her. "Little girl," the old man said, "she seems to be seriously ill. No wonder you can enter the tomb. Perhaps this is the will of the heavens." Jun Changshao ignored him and picked up Shi Jingxian. The old man continued, "Master once planted a medicinal herb when he was alive. It has the effect of eradicating all difficult and complicated diseases. Since you are fated to meet, take it." "Where is it?" Jun Changshao asked. "Follow me." The old man turned around and walked away, gradually blending into the darkness. Jun Changshao considered for a moment, then started to follow him. Soon, they arrived at another cave. To be exact, this place was more like a cliff. In the center, there was a floating stone slab. On top of it was a thick layer of soil. A lotus-shaped medicinal herb that was shrouded in a halo was growing on it. Jun Changshao looked over from afar and felt the vigorous aura of life. He secretly said, "I'm afraid the quality is not low. This is the pure heart Saint Lotus, one of the few divine medicinal herbs in the Falling Star continent. Master planted it here when he was alive. He wanted to use it to treat his wife, but in the end." The old man sighed and shook his head. "He still passed away before it matured." "And then?" Jun Changshao said. The old man said, "Although Master was a medical saint, it was difficult for him to cure his wife's illness. Every time he fell into self-blame, he chose to die and follow his wife. Because the person he loved had left, he chose to die. How sad was this feeling?" The old man looked at the medicinal herb and said, "The pure heart Saint Lotus matured the second year after Master's death. He clenched his fists and said in a tearful voice, If Madame could have endured for another year, Master would not have done such extreme things. Jun Changshao did not speak from beginning to end. The medical saint could not even cure his own wife. In the end, she slowly died in his arms. That kind of pain and despair, just thinking about it made one's heart dim. In an instant, Jun Changshao seemed to have entered a strange realm. As a bystander, he saw the pure heart lotus planted by the medical saint, and then saw the scene of him following his lover. What is love in the world? It is a life and death commitment. Flying from south to north, how many seasons does the old wing go through? Joy is interesting, parting is painful, and there are even more infatuated children. The ruler should have words, the clouds are vast and boundless, the mountains are covered in snow. You can take this pure heart Saint Lotus and use it to treat this girl. It's also a pity for Master. The old man said. Thank you. Jun Changshao said. However, the old man reminded, the love fate realm is set up around the medicinal herbs. Unless a pair of fated men and women go together to break it, it is impossible to take it away. You and this girl were able to break the enchantment of the cave before, which means that you have a deep relationship. There should be no problem. Jun Changshao was stunned. Palace Master Shi and I are just friends. How can we have a deep relationship? If you talk nonsense again, I will sue you for slander. Forget it, let's try it first. Jun Changshao carried Shi Jingxian and jumped, flying towards the floating stone slab in front of him. Then, he easily merged into the enchantment and landed in front of the pure heart Saint Lotus. Sure enough, love is stronger than gold. The old man said, little girl, this medicinal herb is very sacred. You need to dig it out carefully. You must not put it into the space ring to avoid losing your spirituality. Jun Changshao carried Shi Jingxian with one hand, then gently dug out the soil and slowly dug out the pure heart Saint Lotus. In close contact, he could feel an extremely pure aura of life. Even if he sniffed the fragrance lightly, his mind would be refreshed. Divine-grade medicinal herbs were indeed amazing. Shwa! He gently plucked the pure heart Saint Lotus, then carried Shi Jingxian and flew back to the original place. Whoosh, however, just as he stabilized his body, a cold force emerged from the side. He saw that the old man's 5 skinny fingers suddenly grabbed him. Bang! A loud sound came, shaking the entire mountain. Thump! 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 The old man took a few steps back, his eyes filled with shock. Jun Changshao stood still in the same place. His body was surrounded by layers of flames, like a solid flame defense wall. He carried Shi Jingxian in one hand and the pure heart Saint Lotus in the other, and said lightly, you old man are very bad. Chapter 633. Jun Changshao, who had just flown over from the floating slab, was suddenly attacked by the old man. Fortunately, he released a variety of flames in time to form a strong defense in front of him. Not only did he block the attack, but his palm was also scorched black. Good boy. The old man said in a deep voice, so you have so many flames. Jun Changshao said indifferently, if I'm not wrong, you want to borrow my hand to take out this tranquil heart Saint Lotus, right? That's right. The old man said with a ferocious face, I've been waiting for 3,000 years. Jun Changshao said, as a tomb keeper, you covet the tranquil heart Saint Lotus. Isn't this stealing? Ha ha ha. The old man laughed loudly, this old man has guarded the tomb of the medical saint couple for 3,000 years. The tranquil heart Saint Lotus should be my reward. Jun Changshao didn't understand. Was this guy the medical saint's servant or someone with ulterior motives? The old man said with a ferocious face, this old man went mad while practicing the 5 treasures divine arts. Although I was cured by the medical saint, I had to bow down to him. The system said, the 5 treasures divine arts is a unique martial art created by the evil saint 5 treasures 3,000 years ago. You're the evil saint 5 treasures? Jun Changshao asked. The hunchbacked old man laughed strangely, I didn't expect that after so many years, there would still be people who remember this old man. Damn. Evil Saint Wu Sheng. This problem is a bit serious. No. Jun Changshao thought, the power of that attack was obviously at Wu Huang's level. Otherwise, I wouldn't have been able to resist it. The system said, this person's cultivation is only at the peak of Wu Huang. So that's it. Jun Patriarch was relieved. As long as it wasn't Wu Sheng, then he had some confidence. And then? Jun Changshao asked. The evil Saint Five Treasures smile disappeared, and his face became ferocious again. I thought that after the medical saint died, I could regain my freedom. I didn't know that before he died, he trapped my soul source in a formation and waited for thousands of years before I could return to my body. How did you survive in the tomb? Jun Changshao had always wanted to ask this question. After all, 3,000 years was something that even Qin Shi Huang, who had taken the elixir of immortality, could not withstand. Brat! Evil Saint Wu Jue said coldly, I don't have time to waste my breath with you. Quickly call the tranquil Saint Lotus over. Otherwise, you and your woman will be buried here. His eyes never left that stalk of medicinal herb. It was obvious that it was very important to him. Could it be that his soul origin had been suppressed for too long, and even if he returned to his body, it would be difficult for him to adapt to the drop in his realm, and he could recover all his strength after consuming the tranquil heart Saint Lotus? The system said, that's possible. TSK. In the beginning, when he talked about the medical sage of all faces, his emotions were so real that even I believed him. I thought he was a dutiful tomb keeper, but I didn't expect him to harbor evil intentions. I'm sorry. Jun Changshao said, I got the herbs, so they are mine. You are courting death. Evil Saint Wu Ju said with a cold gaze. At this moment, he had already torn off his disguise, so there was naturally no need for him to hide. TSK Jun Changshao said indifferently, don't think that you are a powerhouse from 3,000 years ago. I am not afraid of you at all. Damn brat, if I still have my strength from back then, I can pinch you to death with one finger. Evil Saint Wu Ju said coldly. This was the truth. If it was really the evil Wu Sheng with his full cultivation, with Jun Patriarch's current cultivation, he definitely wouldn't have any power to fight. But you are only at the level of Wu Huang now, what are you being so arrogant for? Shua! Jun Changshao gently put Shi Jingxian down, and then formed an air wall in front of him, and kept the tranquil heart Saint Lotus into the space ring. Not afraid of the loss of spirituality? Nonsense. That guy must be worried that he would keep it in the space ring, and not be able to snatch it immediately, so he deliberately said that. Old man. Jun Changshao shook his head, and said with a cold gaze, you dare to play dirty, I will let you die first. If it wasn't for his quick reaction just now, he would really be in danger. If you want to snatch the herbs, then so be it. But you dare to use such a vicious move, I will definitely play you to death. The hot-tempered Jun Changshao instantly ignited 10 kinds of flames, and covered his whole body, as if he had turned into a man of fire. Evil Saint Wu Ju was shocked, you have the body of sacred flame. Worthy of being a top expert of the older generation, he immediately realized that Jun Patriarch had the strongest flame body in the continent. If it was another type of body, he might not be afraid. However, the body of sacred flame was the strongest yang, and it could restrain evil qi. If he had known earlier, he would have hidden for a while, and looked for a better opportunity to make his move. Shua! Jun Changshao strode forward, and his right fist suddenly waved in the void. The purple mysterious sacred flame was mobilized, and the flames around his fist instantly turned purple. The purple flame whizzed out, as if it had turned into a purple dragon beast with its mouth wide open. Exterminating palm. Evil Saint Wu Ju took 2 steps back, and his palms suddenly stretched out, and the eviline attribute whizzed out, and instantly turned into a big palm pressing down. Rumble. The violent purple flame and the eerie palm print collided, and the energy ripple produced, instantly shook the entire cave. At that moment, the Raging Flames Saint Sect Elder Gu and the rest who were in another cave did not have the time to notice, because, after Jun Changshao plucked the Tranquil Heart Saint Lotus, a few hundred corpses suddenly crawled out from the ground. This was left behind by the 100 Faces medical saint when he was alive. It could be considered as a trap to prevent people from plucking the herbs that he had painstakingly planted. This is troublesome. The Raging Flames Saint Sect Elder frowned. In terms of power, he was much stronger than the corpses, but the opponent was very resistant, and there were so many of them. If they were to be entangled, they would definitely be exhausted. Caw caw caw. Suddenly, the ground cracked. 8 corpses with swords on their backs slowly stood up, although they did not have any life chi, but their bodies were congealed with a sharp aura. Without a doubt. They must have been sword cultivators when they were alive. Elder Gu carefully examined the clothes of the 4 corpses, and the rotting plates on their waists, and exclaimed, "The 8 protectors of the Evil Sword Sect." Evil Sword Sect. A third-rate sword sect. 3,000 years ago, they had reached their peak, and their power was not inferior to second-rate sections. Weren't they killed by the 100 Faces Medical Saint's 9-ray Godly Needle, on the Green Sound platform? Why are they here? It is said that the Medical Saint Senior has a weird habit, and likes to keep the corpses of those he killed. I heard of it too, and he only killed the evil sects, and had never killed anyone from the righteous sects. Clang! Clang! While everyone was talking, the 4 evil sword cultivators all brandished their swords. Although the swords were rusty, but the sharpness of the swords meant that they had a high level of understanding of the sword Tao when they were alive. Everyone. The Raging Flame Saint Sect Elder's expression congealed. The 8 protectors of the Evil Sword Sect, their cultivation were all at the pinnacle of the Sword King level when they were alive. Everyone must work together and resist together. Whoosh whoosh. All the experts from the various sects released their cultivation. At this moment, they did not care about the treasures in the tomb, but were more concerned about how to get rid of the strong corpses, and how to survive. Bang! Bang! Inside the main tomb's cave, the scorching flames roared and crazily engulfed the sinister evil Qi. In a short time, Jun Changshao and evil Saint Wu Ju had exchanged over 10 moves, and were evenly matched. It was hard to tell who had the upper hand. Bang! The 2 of them clashed again, and then separated, maintaining a certain distance. Evil Saint Wu Ju's pale face was filled with disbelief. Not only did he have the strongest holy flame physique, but his spiritual power was also extremely dense. How did he train? Or, after 3,000 years, had the world changed? How could a young man have such valiant power, to be able to challenge an emperor as a king? No. The world had not changed. The main thing was that Jun Changshao had transmigrated. He was a cheater. Chapter 634. Evil Saint Wu Ju did not expect this young kid to be so strong, so he tried to persuade him. "Kid, the tomb is already under my control. If you hand over the Tranquil Heart Saint Lotus, I will let you go." "Is that so?" Jun Changshao sneered. He roughly deduced that this person was trapped in the tomb, and was eager to get the Tranquil Heart Saint Lotus, so he made such a big commotion outside, just to wait for the experts of the various sects to come to him. Evil Saint Wu Ju said, "You and I are equally matched in strength. If we fight for a few days and nights, we may not be able to determine the winner, so why not both of us take a step back?" Equally matched? Jun Changshao sneered, "You think too highly of yourself." Evil Saint Wu Ju said, "Picking the Tranquil Heart Saint Lotus triggered the seal, and the hundreds of immortal corpse puppets left by the medical saint have already been unsealed." Immortal corpse puppets? It should be the corpses that were just burned. Jun Changshao said indifferently, "What does this have to do with me?" Evil Saint Wu Ju smiled eerily. "There are at least thousands of martial artists who entered the tomb. Although their strength is not bad, it is impossible for them to compete with the immortal corpse puppets. If you hand over the Tranquil Heart Saint Lotus, I will tell you how to seal them and let them leave alive." Jun Changshao said, "Sorry, I have no obligation to care about the life and death of others." Since they entered the tomb, they must be prepared to die. He would not step forward to save someone unrelated to him just because they were in danger. Evil Saint Wu Ju said, "You think you will be safe if they die? When the immortal corpse puppets come, you will also die here. Stop talking nonsense." Jun Changshao said impatiently, "I just want to beat you up now." Caw caw caw. Light lingered on his right fist, condensing into a steel glove. With Jun Patriarch's current strength, he could not defeat a Wu Huang who had regressed to the peak of Wusheng, so he could only use another trump card. Ha! Evil Saint Wu Ju was stunned. This glove-like item, could it be some kind of treasure? Caw! Jun Changshao clenched his right fist, activating the combat form of the armament wings, and a thicker iron plate gathered on his wrist. Although there was no strong aura leaking out, it made Evil Saint Wu Ju frown. His intuition told him that this item was definitely not simple. Shwa! Jun Changshao stepped forward and punched out with his right fist in the air. Wang! Ripples appeared in space, converging into a faintly discernible fist. This seemingly casual punch caused the space to tremble. One could imagine how terrifying the power was. Not good. Evil Saint Wu Ju's expression changed. He immediately gathered a wall of qi in front of him. But just as he set it up in front of him, the explosive fist seal mercilessly blasted on it. Bang! The palace suddenly shook, and the 8 pillars swayed. The qi wall condensed by Evil Saint 5 ultimates was instantly shattered, and he was forced to retreat. The qi and blood in his body were shaken to the point of boiling, and his eyes were filled with shock. What kind of supreme treasure was this? It could put him in such a sorry state with just one punch. Huff! It was at this moment that Jun Changshao strode over. His right fist, which was covered by his combat gear, immediately erupted with scorching flames. This was the double trump card of Sacred Flame Physique and Armament Wings. Evil Saint Wu Ju's eyes were even more shocked. He hurriedly stepped on the ghost body movement technique to avoid it. He was terrified. He did not dare to take it head-on. Not to mention him, even if it was another peak Wu Huang, he would not have the courage to face it. Running? Jun Changshao sneered and suddenly punched in the opponent's direction. The space trembled again, and a flaming fist was formed. The flaming fist was huge and covered a wide area. Evil Saint Wu Ju realized that he could not avoid it. He could only pinch his hands and instantly condense layers of black enchantments in front of him. Boom! The flaming fist was blasted, and Cui Gu broke the enchantments layer by layer. His qi and blood were boiling, and finally, he could not help but vomit blood. Fortunately, his defense was strong enough. After being broken, the power of the fist seal was also dissolved, and he hurriedly retreated. Shwa! Jun Changshao appeared in front of him with cloud steps and said coldly, "You know nothing about power." Not good. Evil Saint Wu Ju's pupils contracted. Boom! Another explosion came from inside the cave. Jun Changshao's heavy punch landed on Evil Saint Wu Ju's chest. His whole body was suddenly blasted out and heavily hit the wall at the edge. The double activation of the body of Holy Flame and the battle form had actually suppressed a peak Wu Huang to the point that he could not fight back. This was too shocking. Damn it. Evil Saint Wu Ju struggled to stand up. He covered his painful chest and said angrily, "If I had not been suppressed for 3,000 years, how could I be bullied by a junior?" His body was very weak. Although he had the strength of a peak Wu Huang, it was difficult for him to use it perfectly. If it were the elders of the Burning Flame Holy Sect or Old Gu, even if they were in a bad state, they could easily deal with him. However, he encountered Jun Changshao who had a cheat. Shwa! Shwa! The flaming fist whizzed out. Boom! Boom! The explosions in the palace continued, and the energy rippled crazily. The temperature also rose rapidly. It was strange. Jun Changshao's crazy bombardment was very powerful. Although the cave was shaking, it did not collapse. Even the 2 stone coffins on the platform did not move. Boom! Another heavy punch blasted out. Evil Saint Wu Ju crashed into the wall with a bang. His whole face was gradually distorted. In a short period of time, he was bombarded with hundreds of punches. Although he did not fall down, his whole body was covered with bruises as if he was about to fall apart. Evil Saint Wu Ju, who once had Wuxing's cultivation, was simply the perfect punching bag for Jun Changshao to use all his trump cards without any scruples. To be honest, it had been a long time since he had such a good fight. Shwa! Jun Changshao waved his fist again, condensing the scorching flame. Young friend. Evil Saint Wu Ju hurriedly said, let's talk nicely. His physical body was very strong and resistant to beatings. However, if he continued to be abused like this, sooner or later he would not be able to withstand it. Jun Changshao said, let me abuse you for a while more. Evil Saint Wu Ju's mouth twitched. After waiting for 3,000 years, he finally thought of a comprehensive plan and implemented it. He did not expect to attract a little monster. Young friend, I don't want the tranquil Saint Lotus anymore. Evil Saint Wu Ju admitted defeat and said, if you want to leave the tomb, I will tell you the exit now. Although the tranquil Saint Lotus could restore all his cultivation, the most important thing now was to survive. Even if he had to stay at the emperor level, he would be happy. The flame on Jun Changxiao's right fist was even hotter. He said coldly, hand over your soul origin, and I can let you go. It was a pity that he did not subdue such a strong servant. Evil Saint Wu Ju was angry. It was not easy to take back his soul origin. How could he be controlled by others again? Young man, he said angrily, do you have to fight to the death? Shwa! Jun Changshao rushed over and launched an airtight bombardment again. Evil Saint Wu Ju was now exhausted and could not make any effective defense. He could only take the beating. Chapter 635. Boom! Boom! Jun Changshao began to bombard Evil Saint Wu Ju again, causing him to spurt out blood and suffer unspeakably. There was no other way. His strength had deteriorated and he was very weak. He could only be beaten up. After dozens of punches, Jun Changshao stopped and said lightly, old man, you have to face reality. Damn it! Evil Saint Wu Ju's eyes were filled with anger. Are you going to hand it over or not? No. All right. Jun Changshao did not beat around the bush. He raised his hand and the green dragon crescent blade appeared out of thin air. The blade was covered in flames and his eyes were filled with killing intent. If you don't hand over your soul source, then I'll send your soul to the 9 heavens. If the other party insisted on not cooperating, it didn't matter if he killed him. It was hard to imagine how terrifying the power of the green dragon crescent moon blade would be when it was buffed by the armed right hand. Evil Saint Wu Ju naturally realized that the quality of the blade Jun Changshao summoned was extraordinary. Crack! He clenched his fists and gritted his teeth, I'll hand it over. He admitted defeat in just a second with such lofty sentiments. No wonder he was an expert of the older generation who had been tricked by the versatile medical sage for thousands of years. In fact, it was understandable. After all, it was not the first time he handed over his soul source. It was normal for him to hand it over again. Not to mention, a man who knew when to yield and when to stand tall was a noble character that an evil sect expert must have. Otherwise, he would not have lived until now. He would have died in the hands of the versatile medical saint. With the previous experience, Evil Saint Wu Ju skillfully forced the soul source out of his body. Shwa! Jun Changshao pinched the soul and said proudly, from today onwards, you are my servant. Yes. Evil Saint Wu Ju said respectfully, Master. Looking at the soul he had just obtained and then lost, he almost couldn't help but cry. After being trapped in the tomb for 3,000 years, he finally saw the light of day again. But before he could walk out of the wolf's den, he fell into the tiger's mouth. It was too tragic. Is there anything good in this tomb other than the tranquil Saint Lotus? Jun Changshao asked. Evil Saint Wu Ju said, there are also some seeds left by the versatile medical saint. Anything else? Jun Changshao said. That's all. Evil Saint 5 Ultimates said, no, there are still soul stones that can control undying corpse puppets. Where is it? Master, please follow me. The two of them came to another cave abode, which was also set up with the love fate realm. Jun Changshao carried the unconscious Shi Jingxian and successfully broke through. He saw a palm-sized round plate on the stone platform in the center. There were strange lines on it. He asked, Senior Medical Saint, were you an expert in formations when you were alive? Evil Saint of 5 Ultimates said, the formation here was set up by his wife. I see. Jun Changshao took away the soul stone compass. Returning to the main tomb area, he looked at the two stone coffins and said apologetically, Senior, I didn't mean to disturb you. Please forgive me. For the sake of his deceased wife, he chose to commit suicide. His love for her was deep and respectable. Let's go. Jun Changshao had no intention of opening the sarcophagus. After all, the dead were important, so there was no need to disturb them. The most valuable thing in the tomb was the divine-grade Tranquil Heart Saint Lotus. The medical books written by the medical saint of all faces were also priceless treasures. Therefore, he had gained a lot from this trip. Bang! Bang! In another cave, Elder Gu and the rest were fighting with a few hundred undying corpse puppets. Because the opponent was very resistant, and there were 8 evil sword cultivators, in a short period of time, 60 to 70 martial artists died. Bang! The Elder of Raging Flame Saint Sect congealed a blazing flame and forced a corpse puppet to retreat. He said angrily, if we continue like this, we will be exhausted sooner or later. Show! 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 Just at this time, an evil sword cultivator corpse puppet waved its sword. In a flash, it released countless sword lights. A few martial cultivators in front of it had their throats slit. The other evil sword cultivators were fighting with Wu Huang. It was hard to tell who had the upper hand. These evil sword sect protectors might not be able to win against Wu Huang when they were alive. Now that they had been refined into impenetrable corpses, their fighting power was extremely explosive. Bang! Bang! 2 Wu Huang congealed tens of millions of power and attacked an evil sword cultivator. Although he flew out, he crawled up from the ground and raised his sword again. This kind of undying cockroach was undoubtedly the most frustrating. We can't drag this on any longer. Old Gu frowned, let's go back the way we came. The cave entrance is sealed. How can we go back? The Elder of Raging Flame Saint Sect said. Bang! As he spoke, he waved his palm and sent a corpse puppet flying. Not only did he not tear it into pieces, he also used up a lot of spiritual energy. We are going to die here. If I knew, I wouldn't have come in. Many martial artists were in despair. Rumble. Just at this time, the stone slab that connected to the main tomb area suddenly rose. The door is open. Go go go, let's go in. The martial cultivators in despair seemed to have seen the light in the darkness. But, just as they were about to rush in, they saw Jun Changshao carrying Shi Jingxian out. He laughed, everyone seems to be in trouble. Everyone's mouth twitched. Not only were they in trouble, they were about to die. Jun Changshao said, everyone, don't panic. I have found a way to suppress these corpses. Everyone was overjoyed. But, Jun Changshao said, there is a price to pay, so I hope everyone can give me some spirit stones as compensation. Damn it. Such a good opportunity, he had to earn some extra money. The Elder of the Burning Flame Holy Sect said angrily, you are taking advantage of the situation. You can think of it that way. Jun Changshao did not deny it and said shamelessly, since we entered the tomb together, I won't ask for much. 500 spirit stones per person. Yes. There were thousands of them. 500 spirit stones per person was quite a large number. The elder of the burning flame holy sect finally chose to remain silent. If he could control these corpses and get himself out of danger, 500 spirit stones would not be too much. Bang! A Wu Huang hit the corpse puppet and said in a deep voice, "How can we be sure that you are not lying?" Freeze! Jun Changshao shouted. The hundreds of immortal corpse puppets suddenly froze in place, as if they were sealed by some kind of power. This was the effect of the soul stone compass. As long as one's spiritual thoughts were integrated into it, one would instantly control their every move. "Do you think I am lying?" Jun Changshao said. Everyone was dumbfounded. Just one word and all the corpses were frozen. This was really unbelievable. Wu Huang-level powerhouses instantly guessed that this kid must have mastered some kind of method to control the corpses. Jun Patriarch. Elder Gus said, "I will pay." He hurriedly walked forward and offered 500 spirit stones. Jun Changshao glanced at everyone and said, "I will only give you 3 seconds to consider, and then I will remove the seal on your corpses. At that time, your life and death will be up to fate." If he was taking advantage of the situation just now, he was threatening them now. 1, 2, 3. Jun Changshao shouted 3 times in one breath and said, "Open." Everyone almost fell. "Big brother, your speed is too fast." Whoosh whoosh. Hundreds of immortal corpse puppets moved again, and under Jun Changshao's control, they quickly surrounded them. Jun Patriarch. The elder of the burning flame holy sect hurriedly said, "Pay. Pay." Chapter 636. We'll pay too. Old Gu and the elder of the raging flame holy sect both agreed, and the other martial artists could only cooperate. Moreover, 500 spirit stones were nothing compared to their lives. Freeze! Jun Changshao relied on the soul stone compass to make the immortal corpse puppet stop again. At this time, anyone who couldn't see that he had mastered the control method would be an idiot. Since that was the case, they would use spirit stones to buy their safety. The martial artists of the various sects all threw over their spatial rings containing 500 spirit stones. Jun Patriarch. A martial artist said with a bitter face, "We don't have that many spirit stones." The large sects didn't lack spirit stones. Even if they had 500 spirit stones, they would have already taken them. Naturally, they wouldn't keep them with them. Jun Changshao said, "Use valuable things to pay. Silver notes, ores, herbs, anything will do." This guy wasn't picky at all. The martial artists of the sects were unhappy. Why can they use herbs and ores to pay, but we have to pay 500 spirit stones? They thought so in their hearts, but they didn't dare to say it out loud. In such a situation, they could only admit defeat. In a short time, nearly 3,000 martial artists all paid the protection fee. After some calculation, they obtained 300,000 spirit stones. Unfortunately, they weren't natural. There were all kinds of herbs, ores, crystal cores, and silver notes. They took the most valuable things in the tomb and extorted a large amount of resources. Jun Patriarch, you're a dog. I took their money to eliminate their disaster. Jun Changshao said sanctimoniously, "Let's go, I'll take you out of the tomb." At that moment, his body flashed with a dazzling and sacred light, as if he was the savior of the world. The readers couldn't help but feel respect. The exit was located in the main tomb area. Jun Changshao brought everyone in, and the hundreds of immortal corpse puppets also followed in an orderly manner. The soul stone compass was controlled by him, so these immortal corpses naturally belonged to him. Good. All the good things fell into this guy's pocket. Evil Saint Wu Ju waited in the main tomb area, looking at the elders of the raging flame holy sect with a trace of disdain. If they hadn't met a little monster, these martial artists who were tricked by him were destined to be buried with the medical saint. Jun Patriarch. Old Gu looked at the stone coffin on the high platform and asked, "Which senior's tomb is this?" "The tomb of the versatile medical sage and his wife," Jun Changshao said. "Ah." Elder Gu exclaimed, "Senior medical saint has passed away. No wonder there are so many medical books and the corpses of the evil sections. It's the tomb of the medical sage. The death of a Qi Huang divine hand is a great loss to our falling star continent. Everyone would get sick, even if it was a world full of spiritual energy." The medical sage of all faces had practiced medicine to help the world, saving the dying and healing the wounded. He was deeply admired and loved by the people. Jun Changshao said, "Senior medical sage only left medical books in the tomb. Jun hopes that after everyone leaves, don't disturb his rest." "Understood, understood." Everyone echoed. If it was the tomb of a Wu Sheng, they would definitely have some ideas. However, the medical sage of all faces was not proficient in martial arts. Even if he left behind something good, it would not have much to do with martial arts. This is... Old Gu looked at evil Saint Wu Ju with some fear in his heart. His intuition told him that although this person looked weak, his strength must be extraordinary. Half of the reason for his weakness was because he had been in the tomb for too long, and the other half was because he was tortured by Jun Patriarch. The elders of the Burning Flame sect also realized it, so after seeing evil Saint Wu Ju, they immediately became vigilant. "My servant," Jun Changshao said. "Servant?" Everyone's eyes were filled with surprise. Rumble, the tightly shut stone wall slowly opened under evil Saint Wu Ju's attack. It was a tunnel that extended upwards. It was dark and gloomy. Everyone walked all the way and finally appeared in the outside world. Rumble. After everyone walked out, the exit was sealed by the cave again. The formation in the tomb would be completely sealed, and no one would be able to enter. After evil Saint Wu Ju adapted to the strong sunlight, he slowly opened his eyes with mixed feelings. As an evil cultivator, he walked the gloomy and dark path. However, after being trapped in the tomb for 3,000 years, he was almost tortured to the point of insanity. After all, humans were social creatures. Being trapped in a sealed place without even talking for thousands of years was really like being in hell. "Everyone," Jun Changshao said, "forgive me for not seeing you off." The elders of the Burning Flame sect did not say anything and left with their people. If not for those corpses and evil Saint Wu Ju, he might have settled the score with Jun Changshao after walking out of the tomb. Goodbye. The martial artists of the other sects also left. The southern barren state had a natural phenomenon. They thought that they could gain something, but in the end, they did not gain anything and even lost 500 spiritual stones. It was really a double loss. Many martial artists had already left, but only Old Gu had not left. He smiled and said, "Jun Patriarch, where is my share of spiritual stones?" "Here." Jun Changshao tossed over a spatial ring, which contained 10,000 spirit stones. When this guy took advantage of the situation, he had sent a telepathic message to Old Gu, asking him to cooperate and hand in more spiritual stones when they got out. "Thank you." After counting the spiritual stones, Old Gu smiled and cupped his hands. Jun Changshao said, "You should be an itinerant cultivator without any sect. Why not find a sect and settle down?" "Jun Patriarch wants to recruit me." Old Gu smiled and said. Jun Changshao shrugged and said, "To be recruited by me personally, you should feel honored." "What arrogance!" "Ha ha ha." Old Gu laughed and said, "I have heard that Jun Patriarch is arrogant and domineering. Seeing you today, you really live up to your reputation. I have lived for hundreds of years and witnessed the rise and fall of countless sects, but I have never seen an unknown sect that can rise overnight. If Jun Patriarch does not mind, I am willing to join the sect of all times, even if I am just a gatekeeper." Evil Saint Wu Ju was stunned. How could a Wu Huang be recruited so easily? He, who had been trapped in the graveyard for 3,000 years, did not know about the sect of all times that had recently become famous. Otherwise, he would understand why the other party was willing to join him just by casually mentioning it. "Join my sect," Jun Changshao said. "You need to pay 10,000 spiritual stones as an entry fee." Old Gu was dumbfounded. He was very tempted by the sect of all times, which had the potential to be in the top 3. Therefore, after thinking about it, he still returned to the spiritual stones. Swoosh! 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 At this moment, Zhang Sun Fanghua, Ling Xingyue, and the others galloped over on the 1,000-mile wind chaser. It was already too late to come after the matter was over. Seeing their palace master being carried by Jun Changshao, the elders of Miaohua Palace glared at them. Everyone! Jun Patriarch said helplessly, don't misunderstand. Your palace master went berserk again. Jun had no choice but to knock her out. My head hurts. In Miaohua Palace, the unconscious Shi Jingxian slowly woke up and subconsciously touched the back of her head. Palace Master is awake. Palace Master is awake. Whoosh! Whoosh! Zhangsun Fanghua, Ling Xingyue, and the others rushed over. Where's Jun Patriarch? Shi Jingxian was confused. She remembered that she was clearly in the graveyard with him. How did she suddenly come to her own sect? Zhangsun Fanghua said, Palace Master, that kid has returned to Azure Sun County. As she spoke, she took out a small exquisite box and said, before he left behind an item and a letter. Shi Jingxian opened the letter and read its contents. Then, she said, you can all leave. Yes. Everyone left. After they left, Shi Jingxian opened the small exquisite box. Inside, there was a lotus petal that contained rich vitality. As for the contents of the letter, it was this is a heart-calming lotus petal. It has the effect of curing all diseases. Palace Master Shi can consume it directly after waking up. I sincerely hope that you will be cured and regain your sight. The sender was Jun Changshao. Chapter 637. Shi Jingxian didn't read the letter but heard it. Jun Patriarch had placed a mark on the letter, and it would synchronize with the text within a few minutes. Especially when reading on QQ, the content could be corrected while reading. If you were reading and suddenly jumped to the first page of the chapter, it meant that I had changed the content during this period. Patriarch. In the wilderness, Old Gu asked again, you really have nothing to do with Palace Master Shi? No. Jun Changshao said. Old Gu believed him, but shook his head, it's a pity. In his opinion, Jun Changshao and Shi Jingxian were a match made in heaven. It didn't make sense for them to have no relationship. Evil Saint Wujue was stunned. This kid had nothing to do with that woman, so why did he break the love realm? Let's go. Jun Changshao activated his armed wings and flew into the sky. The Demon Ridge Black Eagle flapped its wings, and hundreds of immortal corpse puppets followed closely behind. In fact, Jun Patriarch also wanted to develop a passionate relationship with the beauties of this world. But he was the patriarch of the sect of all times, and he also had to work hard for the main mission. He had no time for romance, so he could only pretend to be a fool with low EQ. Don't say that Jun Patriarch was single because of his strength, and don't say that he was destined to be alone. He just didn't want to flirt with girls, and didn't want to show off his PDA to them. Poochie! Poochie! The Demon Ridge Black Eagle retracted its wings and slowly landed on the training ground. Hundreds of immortal corpse puppets jumped down. What's this? The disciples were stunned. Li Qingyang frowned, there's no vitality at all, they're all corpses. Ah! Su Xiaoma, who was about to approach, quickly retreated. Zhou Hong locked onto the 8 evil sword cultivators, and his intuition told him that these people must have been sword masters when they were alive. Corpse puppets? Yi Xingqian thought to himself, this method of preserving corpses without rotting should have been lost for a long time. As expected of the Night Emperor, he was experienced and knowledgeable. Shua! Shua! Evil Saint Wujue and Old Gu flew over. Both of them were Emperor-level masters, and the aura they exuded shocked the disciples. They all thought, did the Patriarch recruit more powerhouses? After Jun Changshao returned to the sect, he first inquired about the recent situation, and then placed the immortal corpse puppet in Iron Bone Mountain. Due to its uniqueness, he couldn't summon it often. He could only treat it as a form of protection for the sect. After he was done, he went to the medicine hall and took out all the medical books he had obtained from the tomb. He said, "Elder Wei, these medical books were left behind by the multifaceted physician sage when he was alive. You can let the medicine hall members study them. The sect of all times had no advantage in the medical field. These books were written by the medical saint, and they could undoubtedly greatly improve the members' medical attainments." Elder Wei asked in surprise, "The multifaceted medical sage has passed away?" In terms of seniority, he was younger than the medical saint. Back then, he admired him very much, but it was a pity that he didn't have the chance to meet him. Jun Changshao told him about how the medical saint had treated his deceased wife. Elder Wei said in awe, "The medical saint was a true man, and a role model for us juniors." Jun Changshao's mouth twitched. "Elder Wei, with your rich life of flirting, if you learn from the medical saint, you don't have to do anything for the rest of your life. I still have some medicinal herb seeds here. Let Sun Bukong and the others sort them out and plant them according to the list I gave you." The biggest harvest from the tomb was these seeds, because they could be used to refine mid-grade qi gathering pills, spirit tempering pills, and most importantly, martial king pills. "Okay," Elder Wei said. Jun Changshao said again, "By the way, I also have a tranquil Saint Lotus." Tranquil Saint Lotus? Elder Wei's eyes widened. They were as rare as phoenix feathers and Qilin horns on the falling star continent. However, Jun Changshao said, "If it loses a petal, I don't know if it will lose its spirituality." "It won't," Elder Wei said, "as long as the root is still there, even if all the petals are gone, it will slowly grow again." Divine-grade medicinal herbs were extraordinary. "That's good." Jun Changshao said, "By the way, can the tranquil Saint Lotus cure Elder Wei's illness?" This, Elder Wei thought for a while and said, "I'm not sure." At this moment, Jun Changshao took out the tranquil Saint Lotus and plucked a petal. "Then let's give it a try." Elder Wei's mouth twitched. Although this divine herb could be regenerated, if the petal was not taken immediately, the effect would be greatly reduced. He was not sure if it could work, but the patriarch plucked it without saying anything. That was too rash. "Forget it. I'll take it first." Elder Wei hurriedly put the cold petal in his mouth and chewed it slowly. After swallowing it, the cold aura spread in his body, and there was a comfortable feeling. "How is it?" Jun Changshao asked. Elder Wei was silent for a while, then shook his head and said, "It doesn't work." He only felt that his spirit was better than before, but his cultivation was still not recovered. He could only unleash the power of an emperor, and he could not condense the heaven and earth attributes in his dantian. Jun Changshao said, "Can't the tranquil Saint Lotus cure all difficult and complicated diseases?" Elder Wei said bitterly, "I'm afraid that the so-called eradication of everything is an exaggeration. Even senior medical sage was able to bring the dying back to life. In the end, even his wife couldn't be cured." "That's true." Jun Changshao said, "Elder Wei, don't be discouraged. As long as you're still alive, there's still hope." "Ha ha ha." Elder Wei laughed and said, "I'm old, and I've seen through it all. It doesn't matter if I can recover or not. I just hope that I can do my best to help you young people in my lifetime." Patriarch. At this moment, Sun Bukong said weakly, "We can look for a cure in the medical books left behind by the medical saint." This fellow was quite accomplished in medicine, and was also a member that Old Man Wei valued. "Then what are we waiting for?" Jun Changshao said, "Hurry up and look." "Yes." Sun Bukong hurriedly took the stacks of secret manuals and read them attentively. As for the others, they began to sort the seeds in the hundreds of interspatial rings according to the patriarch's instructions. There were too many qi gathering pills and spirit tempering pills. The main thing was the martial king pills. After sorting and matching, there were more than 10,000 sets. If they were all refined, they could create 10,000 martial kings at any time. No wonder Jun Patriarch was so excited that he spoke in his hometown dialect when he obtained so many seeds. The next day, The members of the medicine hall began to soak the seeds and plant them one after another. Elder Wei planted the tranquil Saint Lotus in the area with the densest spiritual qi in the herb garden. Sun Bukong was immersed in the medical books and could not extricate himself. These books from the medical sage were definitely an opportunity for him. Whether or not he could make a greater breakthrough in his medical skills would depend on his own luck. Everything was arranged properly. June Patriarch did not have to worry about it. At this moment, he was sitting in the study, holding his chin and muttering, "I wonder if the tranquil Saint Lotus can cure Palace Master Shi's eye disease?" Patriarch Li Qingyang walked in and said, "The two who came are arranged as disciples or elders." "Let's go according to the disciples first," Jun Changshao said. Evil Saint Wu Ju's soul origin was controlled. Even as a disciple, he did not dare to object. As for Elder Gu, as a Wu Huang level expert, he was worthy of the position of an elder. However, according to the usual practice, he would be observed for a period of time first. Right. Jun Changshao said, "Evil Saint Wu Ju is an experienced evil cultivator. He can teach Menjiang. Perhaps it will help her improve her cultivation." TSK. An evil cultivator Wu Sheng to teach Yao Menjiang. This treatment was extremely good.